Year.
Unfortunately.
She helped.
Good evening, August.
Yes, welcome. Good to see you. Sure. All right. I can see that.
So, yeah. Check the chat here. Rika, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. And then if anybody types anything in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just put my.
Can you put that on record too? This good.
It's recording.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's currently.
It was very helpful.
Yeah, it is. Did you do the minutes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I
That's
scratched
how you
I
do it.
scratched
Yeah.
through it. My secretary helped me.
Yeah.
Really.
Farm in here. Okay.
Yeah.
Keep it easy, I may have to the ground.
It's recorded anyways.
Oh, alright. I can try.
It's recorded. You'll have.
That's spouse.
Everyone's.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally.
Not too bad.
I'm gonna rush it over here. And she.
Right? Yeah, that was such a beautiful. Yeah. She starts at noon. ETA 6:33.
So just you guys, let's do that. Sure.
We've got one more member who's gonna be here in just a minute. There's a sign-in sheet up at the podium. If you haven't signed in, there's a sheet.
All right.
And what are the copies up there? Okay, yeah.
The same copies everyone. Okay. Yeah, so you can go get the agenda.
So there's copies of the documents for tonight's meeting up on that table also, if you don't have a copy and would like one.
Yeah.
Mm.
Wow. Really? Yeah, you want to mention that? Okay. Direct those to August.
August?
Yep.
Is there a copy on the website? Or is there a way for those on the call to see it electronically? I don't know what's in reference to.
I think are probably on the, you have this posted, these documents posted on the town website under budget, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I will put it in the chat.
Okay, are we live right now? Oh, you got it in the chat? Okay. I'll give Sophia one more minute, then we'll get started.
I am present as well, August. It's Michael.
Oh, hey, yeah, we'll get started in just a minute. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and, it is 6:33. We waited a couple more minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order at this time. We're gonna begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Wayne, would you mind leading here?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Thank you very much. Before we do the agenda review, I'll buy a minute of time because I'm hoping Sophia gets here. For tonight, we have several folks on Zoom. It looks like about 10 or so, and we probably have a dozen folks in person. We're going to work through the agenda in the order that it is. If someone needs to be recognized, whether it's a committee member or a member of the public, just raise your hand so I can see it. And I'll try to do as good a job as possible. For those of you who are online, there is a feature in Zoom to raise your hand. So if you orient yourself with that. If you orient yourself with that, just raise your hand and we'll try to catch you as well. And let's try to keep with the agenda, try to keep the discussion focused on the item at hand. That way we stay on track and we don't get ripped off course too much. There's a decent amount of material. Last meeting, I think we ran a little over 2 hours. The goal is really to try to give everyone an opportunity who needs to comment, the opportunity to comment and be heard, and hopefully get an answer. But also the other goal is to try to stay with the agenda and try to get us out of here in a couple hours if possible. We'll do our best. So having said that, we have all of our members present. And let's just take a quick look at the agenda. For the members of the budget committee, any questions or concerns on the agenda? Okay. And the town manager's done a good job of getting all these documents out. Thank you, Brendan. The first on the agenda is item 4. It's a revised FY20 general fund budget. So Brandon, I'd like to turn it over to you so you can walk us through there. And then Ray's got a question. Before we do that, we have a question from the Zoom.
The message somebody texted. Sorry, Brandon already entered it?
Yeah.
Darn.
Yeah, thank you for keeping track. For the Zoomers, if it's just an administrative note, we'll try to get you an answer. If it's a discussion point, when we open discussion, with motions or with topics or at the end of a presentation, we'll pause for discussion. I hope that helps. Okay, so Brandon, over to you.
Yeah. So in the last budget committee meeting for the general fund, the budget committee asked us to reduce the budget down to a 2.8% increase. We did do that. So the current budget that you have before you, it is a 2.8% increase in the general fund. Originally, we were proposing a 4.2% increase in the general fund budget with a 4.77% tax increase. What this does is it's a 2.8% overall budgetary increase with a 2.05% tax increase. To get there, we made some reductions throughout the budget. We did use an additional $15,000 in fund balance. We reduced our abated taxes line item. We cut out a land use assistant. We reduced office supplies by $1,250, equipment by $250, and software by $150. We also reduced travel and conferences in the finance budget by 33%.
How much did you take from the fund balance?
$15,000.
What does that leave it at?
I will have to get back to you on the audited fund balance. We're still waiting for our audit data.
Okay.
All right. We eliminated the land use assistant position that we're proposing that reduced the land use budget by $6,727.
And just to orient us, what page are you on that you're referencing?
The FY 27 revised land use budget.
Okay, that's
So if we turn to page.
the pages in. Okay, thank you.
All right. Moving on from there.
What is that drop land use? To the proposed for 27 then?
It drops it down to $143,938. We're originally proposing $150,665.
Thank you.
Police department budget is at $426,000. No changes. The fire department budget, we reduced. Vehicle repairs by 3.5%. Dropping this budgetary increase down to a negative 0.37%. We made some adjustments to the library budget. We reduced postage. We reduced traveling conferences, library programs, and library media.
But what, just a pause for people who are new, just in a sentence or two, how is the library budget determined and who determines the proposed budget?
So the library board of trustees are elected officials and they are set, so they actually vote on the library budget. In the past and currently, they are a part of the general fund. They did that to consolidate, so we wouldn't need the duplication of administrative staff.
Thank you.
Can I ask you to repeat? You said postage, programs, what else?
And then the library budget, yeah. Postage. Trustees expenses. Library programs and library media.
Thanks.
Any questions?
Okay, so let's pause. First, I'll ask the meeting members, any questions for the town manager? Any questions? And I've got Mike, you're on Zoom. Any questions? If you have questions, just raise your hand.
Sure.
Yes, I think I missed when you went over, I was trying to go through the page to land use. We went briefly over that and I had questions on that. I was looking at the insurance benefits. And I was comparing just some of the departments that don't have a whole lot of employees. And I couldn't help but compare, and I was just wondering, this one employee, right? And it's $40,669 for a benefits, insurance benefit. But the proposed police, I believe, is also exactly the same. And that is a full-time chief, a full-time officer, and a part-time officer. And I was just wondering how we come about that, because I know that your pay and your benefit is actually part of your compensation package. And I always get reviewed that at the end of the year, wherever I work. We got to show what our difference is. That amounts to 53% of the pay. And I'm just looking at its total is $115,450. And it just, you know, I know it's sound government, I didn't realize it, but there's no revenue coming in from it, but it's 115,000. It just seemed like a pretty high benefit package. I'm wondering why the benefits would be so much different than the police.
So each employee either opts into an employee only plan, an employee plus spouse, an employee plus child, or a family plan.
Yes.
So that really directs the benefit package for the employee, because we can't tell an employee, hey, you can't have a family plan. You can only have an employee plus.
So, and the copay is what, 90%, I think?
For that particular employee, I believe it's we selected the 8614 plan, but I may be mistaken. It could be the 9010.
So the employees, if I get this right, don't get just this is how much money you have to spend on your insurance plan.
Yep.
That's not, which is traditional.
No, I've never had that.
Well, let's do one at a time. I think you were asking Brandon, and then we can go back to Sophia. Is that okay?
So can you repeat the question?
You get so much money per year. This is the 3 option plan you have. And your employer says, okay, this is how much money that we pay towards your plan, and this is how, then you get to choose your plans.
Yes.
2 or 3 plans, but it doesn't exceed this set amount that's offered by the employer.
That's how the town operates and how the majority of municipalities in Vermont operate. So they cap it at a percent. I believe when I first got here, it was at 80. I believe the town was it 90% back in 2020.
But just,
I mean, you can speak to this.
Originally, it was no cost to the employer.
I see, so it was 100%.
Employee.
And so we have been gradually increasing the percentage over
but
time.
we don't really know how many, if whoever we hire for a chief or whoever we hire for.
That's correct.
We don't really know what that insurance plan could, I mean, that could
Yeah.
triple actually from what the budget's saying. It could actually triple, right?
Yeah, it could do that in any budget. That's why,
So I'm just curious what we're voting on, but
well,
we don't know.
any budget could have turnover too. So like
Yeah,
even that land use
understand that.
position,
Yes, I
we could
understand.
lose the land use administrator and somebody could opt into an employee only plan. You could say that, and make that assumption about any.
Yeah, I understand
throughout
that,
the
yeah.
town.
Sophia, if you could, question.
Well, I was actually just gonna mention that it isn't always, like at the places that I've worked, it wasn't always
yeah.
equivalent, but as we're talking about this.
Yes,
One of my questions overall is there a way, or do we do like a little bit of budget here and there, like to say, a little extra in the pocket in case somebody we do need more insurance money, or how do we handle
Yes.
that right now?
So the town owns a rainy day fund, and then we also have. Cumulative fund balance, we typically hold 30,000 in the general fund and 30,000 in the highway fund. In the case of budgetary overruns. So cumulatively, roughly 160,000 in funds in the case of employee benefit changes or something else happens in the town that we need to address that wasn't budgeted for, can't be paid for through one of our reserve funds. Stuff like that.
Okay, I wanna, were you over?
Go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to see, is anyone raised their hands? Anybody see a raised hand from the public? No. Okay, we've got a raised hand, please. And if you're speaking, just come up to the podium. You only have to state your name one time tonight. And let's speak one at a time. That way the Zoom captures all the information. So thank you.
Sure, John Rooker Kimball. I don't know how you want to do this. I have multiple questions on what Brandon just went through.
I would say,
One time.
I'd say one at a time's the way to go. Yeah.
Okay. So first, I just want to point out that it's a little disheartening to see that there's not been minutes from the previous budget committee meetings posted as they are required to be under open meeting law. You have 5 days to do it, they're not posted. It's a little disheartening because how are we as a town supposed to be aware of what's happening? So first question, Brandon, you talked about all the other reductions. You did not talk about the reduction in the reappraisal fund allocation.
Yes, that is correct.
So after this sorry, can I finish real quick?
Yeah.
Sorry. After we're done paying for this reappraisal, what is the cost of this reappraisal, and then what will the fund balance be if we're reducing it down to 2,500, which I believe the number was?
So our current reappraisal is $172,500. I believe we have 327,000 in that reserve fund. So to leave it with plus we transferred 15,000 this year, so 160,000.
Are we shortchanging ourselves the next time we have to do a reappraisal then? Because we are reducing that allocation.
I don't believe so. The next reappraisal would be in 7 years, and there's also a talk at the state on whether so. I do believe that, and we're currently in a reappraisal right now, so this funding can be allocated for this reappraisal. So we may just use that 12,500 towards the reappraisal and offset the listers.
But to this point, if we are short, will we have this marked somewhere that we need to add it to the next budget, or what budget would we do it in, like increments so that it doesn't hurt us too much in 1 year?
Well, like I was just telling John, we have almost 200,000 in the reserve fund after this reappraisal gets paid for. So the town basically already has its money for its next reappraisal.
Okay.
And that's why we made the decision to not transfer the full 15,000 into offset taxes.
Okay, makes sense.
I'd like to answer his question on the minutes. Okay, so our last meeting reorganization, I was elected as the clerk, and obviously I'm not bona fide secretary, but I did submit the minutes, the 23rd, to town manager. I didn't realize he was on vacation. I noticed it firsthand today, and I just happened to go through to print out a copy of the agenda, and I looked at the minutes, and said, crap, they're not there. I called Suzanne and I said, the minutes were submitted, and she looked, and no, it was submitted to Brandon, but I might have submitted the wrong thing to the town clerk, and it was actually the video, because I was using that to draft minutes off, but it is actually on the website. If you look at the website right now, it is on there.
Okay, it was not this one.
You're right, it was not until about 11 o'clock, and I called Suzanne.
Actually, I just want.
No, that's
Understandable.
Yeah, very much agreed. I think we
Yes.
were late with the cure, but we did commit to continue them. I think you. What is the number of days after a meeting? Five. So we'll commit to that, and our apologies.
But thanks for bringing that up.
Did you want to keep, how many questions did you have?
Just one more for now. The next question is really for Ray, I suppose. The reductions in the highway budget.
We're on the general fund, like.
Right. We're only on general fund.
Yeah, let's hit that.
Right,
That's
and then-
okay. We'll take that question.
Then I have another question.
Okay, go ahead.
What the 2.8% requested increase, where did that number come from? And if that is inflation, so you're in essence requesting a level funded budget, just to be clear?
The request came from the budget here.
I can answer part of that. So the national COLA index is 2.8% this year. So for instance, anybody who's receiving in Vermont federal retirements, pensions, VA, military retirement, social security benefits, the federal COLA rate was set at 3.8. So it's basically a well-recognized benchmark for cost of living increase. It's exactly what it is. I hope that.
Agreed, but the point is, if that's inflation, 2.8% was the Northeast Region Consumer Pricing Index number for the past 8 months of FY 26. So if inflation is 2.8% and we're keeping it a 2.8% budget, we are level funding the budget. I want to make that point.
I think you could say that the numbers match this year. They have not matched every year, and the budget cycle's annual. And like when the select board in the past, this is actually a great discussion point, whether we do it now or later. The select board has voted on a COLA increase for the employees. The town manager presents it, the select board votes on it, he bakes it into his budget, right? One of the things that we mentioned briefly at the last meeting was that process of pay raises, we spoke about benefits with land use, for instance. That process, I believe, is healthiest if it's part of the annual budget cycle. So it's nested in here. So when the public's providing comment on the budget, the rates are discussed. Pay raises in such a scenario would not occur throughout the year. It'd be like an annual pay raise baked into the budget. And then when the budget's passed, that's the raise. So it'd be in sync. And so I think in years past, like I think I'm trying to remember what the COLA, I think it was a couple of years ago, it was like 1.8. The select board voted for 1.8. COLA was 2.8 this year. The select board voted for 3.5 in excess of COLA. So it wasn't tied to inflation there. It was very clear that they were voting relating to COLA. So let's take a moment here. Anybody else in the audience have comments or questions on the general fund review?
Can I ask a follow-up to what you just explained? So I don't understand the correlation to what the select board voted for in terms of the raises versus what COLA was. Can you explain that concern or what?
I think I just did. I'm not sure if I hate your concern, but COLA is 2.8% the national COLA rate.
Right.
And so that's a cost of living increase. So for instance, if the general fund, it's a benchmark, there are many benchmarks. You mentioned inflation. Cost of living increase at 2.8% is a benchmark.
Right. So is your point that that it should never exceed that?
I'm not gonna say that at all, because I'm really just focused on the business at hand. I think that's year by year determined.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I'm confused how that relates to this year if we're staying within 2.8% and a premise that we try and have it be more aligned with the budget cycle.
Well, I'll put it this way. If, the committee votes, makes a decision, the committee made a consensus decision to ask that the general fund be no more than 2.8%.
Yes, I understood that part.
And it, like, in terms of annual pay, that's a decision that's made annually, independently.
We do a cost of living adjustment study, we do a compensation study, and then I bring forward a recommendation based on the salaries of all employees.
Right,
The
it's a
reason why it was
combination.
0.7 higher this year is because we are not doing increases throughout the year like we typically do. So when we look at like the average pay of an employee in Vermont in a comparable town, we do that every year and
Okay, now it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have a question over here. Just come up to the podium, like state your name if it's the first time.
Okay, on the mic. I have a question about stipends. From what I can research, it says we cap the stipends at 80,000, correct?
You're speaking of the fire department stipend, I think,
Right.
the article passed last year.
so when the stipend first went into effect, it was $80,000.
Right,
That's
but it
correct.
said cap. The article said cap,
No, it didn't.
yeah, I
That's
get
the
the article here. It's in the book anyway.
I didn't think it's that.
Probably not over there, but the question is that's fine, but from what I can find in research, FICA and the workman's comp is supposed to be included in that cap,
No, that wasn't.
from what I can research.
And that was the research that you did over the article that we presented?
Just in general Vermont. For stipends, general stipends.
So the town voted on stipends for firefighters.
Right.
It did not vote on FICA. It voted on the stipend itself.
But that added to the FICA and.
Correct, it did.
It's like $15,000.
I think the wording of the article is important. I know the town enthusiastically voted for the 80,000
Yeah.
of funds to be available for stipends. I think the point Ron's trying to make, if I could summarize and tell me if I'm right,
I got it right here.
is that inclusive of all those other fees and other things beyond that?
No,
It says right here,
$6,438.
it says right here, it would be capped at an $80,000 total. That's the article. Like,
Do you want to just read the article aloud so that the folks on Zoom can hear it?
but again, if this is true, we've been doing it wrong since 2022.
So it says, shall the voters of the town of Weathersfield approve the expenditure of 80,000 to be added to the annual general fund budget and used for municipal firefighter stipends? So.
Here's the cap part.
So do you have a comment or belief on, just to summarize your concern?
The concern is, are we doing it right? But if not, we've been doing it wrong since 2022.
We're currently doing it right, and what would be wrong in 2022 as compared to today?
Well, we've been paying FICA and workman's comp separate.
Yes, and we still do. We do that for
According to what I can find online, researching it, it's not supposed to be because you got the word capped on there.
No, we didn't have to work down on that. I see the minutes, but that's not the article itself.
No, that's the article.
And I'd have to actually look back at
Yeah, that's actually the article.
So
You just don't see it.
in FY 26,
It was Article 7.
yes, and can you read that article.
Yeah, you can read the article number right there, it says 7.
And that article, can you read the article out loud? The article itself?
Just what you just read.
Okay.
Oh,
So,
I didn't hear him read cat.
Right. Okay, does anybody have the actual article to read?
that's,
It's in a, it's in a.
that's what I just read.
I've got the book right here, we're talking about last year.
It does not say captain, it was for FY 26, and it was for firefighter stipends. Now, what we did,
What does it say chapter here?
yeah, those are the, and it was captain in FY 26 of 8,000 for stipends. That is correct, but it has nothing to do with FICA and workers' comp, no, absolutely not.
It says right here on.
Do you know where the article is in this book?
The stipend is capped, it generally should include. Workers' comp and FICA calculations. That's what I'm saying, we've been doing it wrong. For a few years.
So the way that we offset FICA and workers' compensation increases in FY 26 is we had president stipends for the volunteer fire departments. So what we did is we eliminated those president stipends because we created the municipal fire department. And then we reallocated those funds to pay for the additional stipends.
Let's go ahead and read the article to address this concern.
Shall the voters of the town of Weathersfield approve the expenditure of $80,000 to be added to the annual general fund budget and used for municipal firefighter stipends? That was the article.
So I think your point, I think the article is not clear to the point that you're making, to be fair. I think.
Right. The
I don't think
article's
it
not
uses the
clear to
words-
that point.
doesn't say capped or total, but that's something that a budget committee can comment on. And so and I don't know if do you have any other questions or?
No, that was it.
Okay, because I look at it like this, there's town employees, these would be people who are waged, salaried. And then there's compensated volunteers who receive stipends. And typically, a compensated volunteer who receives a stipend is not a waged, payrolled town employee, like an employee of the municipality. And so I think that's a delineation that has to be made because it goes back to COLA increases. If you're applying a 3.5% COLA increase to people who receive stipends, like i.e. the select board gets a $500 stipend. And or overtime, like an overtime pool. An overtime pool is not a waged employee. It's a pool of funds. So I think we have to be real clear with the decisions. Are we voting to increase stipends because they're employees, or are we voting to increase them because we want to pay more money? I think that's a distinction. I don't know if there's committee comment.
So
I
for
have-
several,
I have to, can I comment
Yeah.
before you do?
Yeah.
So I remember this pretty clearly from last year. And at the time, we were the only fire department not giving our volunteer firefighters anything to pay for any of their uniforms, to pay for all of the trouble that they go through. And so this 80,000 was to help defer. It is still a very small amount of money, so I can't imagine that we're going to take the FICA and the workman's comp and add it to that so that we give them even less.
I don't think that was proposed. I think he raised the question. I think we read the article, and I think the article doesn't call for that change. Am I?
no, it does not call for that change. I mean, I understand where you're coming from. I really do. But FICA is separate from stipends. It's a separate line
I'm
item.
just trying to make sure we're doing it right. We've
Yeah,
been doing it
right.
right since 2022.
Yeah, I totally understand it. And we
One
have,
side research that said we're kind of not doing it right.
what research was that?
Just looking up online, do Vermont stuff, search for Vermont stipends.
Well, here's what I'll tell you though. That article, it was passed last year. I think it was 40 allocated in that year and 40 this year. What was the allocation? Or was all 80 allocated?
It's $80,000 per year.
Per year? Okay.
And just to go back to the stipend, so a stipend. An individual who receives a stipend is an employee of the town. The select board are employees of the town. The select board is the 5 select board members are the only stipend employees that have not received the COLA increase. we've been applying the COLA to stipend employees since as long as I can remember. And that was the case when we had presidents and of the volunteer fire departments and chiefs, they all received the stipends in the past. The emergency management director receives the cost of living adjustment as well as several other stipends through the budget. So we've always applied the COLA to the stipend employees. They are employees of the town. They receive a W-2. They have taxes that come out of their paychecks.
Are they entitled to all employee benefits?
Employee benefits don't start until after 30 hours. So you have to work more than 30 hours to get health insurance and retirement and all of those, but we do pay unemployment insurance at 0.54%. We pay FICA at 7.65%. I do want to point out that FICA for firefighter stipends is not 15,000.
No, what happened is not
$6,400.
The other one's $8,000. Workers' comp.
Yeah, and workers' compensation has been. It's something that we really can't. We can't.
I know, I used to run a $4 million budget.
Yeah.
I know.
So, you know.
Top level.
Feels good.
So,
Yeah, we've got a comment here and then, did I miss someone over here? Okay, Mr. Goffin.
Josh Alton. The workman's comp has always been in. You can go back for the last 15-20 years on the fire departments. The workman's comp has always been there. The town has always, even when the checks were coming to us individually, this town still paid for the firefighters' workman's comp. It's always been like that. So the workman's comp part of it isn't something new since the municipal government started.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
now there is FICA and now there is unemployment.
Okay, and then,
I prepared a little bit of a statement, to address, if I may, to address some of the concerns that have come forward both at other meetings and public forums online, related to the budget. So there was a comment made online about, very significant increase over the past couple of years in the fire department budget. It's important to note that for fiscal year 26 and 27, we have one budget, which is it's the Weathersfield Fire and Emergency Services budget, the one that's being presented tonight and in months past. Prior to that, there was three budgets. So there was an Ascutney Volunteer Fire Department budget, a West Weathersfield Volunteer Fire Department budget, and there was a shared services budget. There was some lines that kind of come in and out over the last 5 years. I am happy to go into more detail if people are concerned, but it's important to note that we need to add those three budgets together prior to 26 to have accurate numbers. Prior to 26, it is included on this for fiscal year 25. But if you look back in the old budgets, Golden Cross ambulance contract was not in the fire budget. So that is now in the fire budget. It should be there. It's an emergency service, but it should be reflected that it was not in the budget. And part of that increase is something that we were paying for. It was just in the general fund in a different place. So I wanted to bring that up. And again, I'm happy to go into more depth on some lines that moved and where they went, because it definitely is confusing. It took me a little while to go through different years and then kind of see where things are at. The second thing, Mr. Chair, you're here. I'm gonna reference you.
sure.
At the last select board meeting, you mentioned that part of the plan, and I'm not gonna words for it, you mentioned that there were to be some efficiencies gained through the formation of a singular district.
Yes,
I do want to note that although this was not the driving factor for merging the two departments roughly 18 months ago, it definitely was discussed. And I do believe that we will see efficiencies into the future. I expect most of those efficiencies at this point to be more on the capital side than the operational side, through some reductions in equipment over the life of that equipment and it going into retirement, if you will. And potentially looking at fleet. So I had mentioned at town meeting that we're going to look at the fleet. I'm not prepared to commit to cutting the fleet at this point, but I will say that anything is on the table, and I'm also not opposed to looking at that as we move forward with capital plan talks or truck replacements. That being said, there's no reason to get rid of a truck right now. We own trucks. I will also say that I think a budget proposal under 2% is quite respectable. That is essentially less than cost of living, that is less than inflation. So although it's not much, I would like to note that there is some cost reductions. And in that cost reduction, we are currently planning to absorb the merge or the transitional costs is what I've kind of classified them on. Any costs that we have incurred to merge the two departments into one. So uniform changes, signs for the buildings which need to get put up there, they're sitting in the firehouses, relettering of trucks, et cetera, et cetera. I've kept some notes on that because there's not a great way to track it, but so far that's been absorbed in the operational budget. I do feel the need to say on record that my intention as chief is to drive the needle forward for public safety in the town. I will continue to make sure we're improving our ability to provide emergency services to the town. I will continue to fight and make sure the townspeople are confident that when they call, they have qualified individuals that show up in a timely manner. And I will continue to fight for the individuals that serve, that they're treated fairly and compensated accordingly. Which brings me to my next point. There was some conversation about stipends on the internet and increases in stipends over the coming years. A year ago, or a little over a year ago, the budget committee talked about a lot of different numbers. But I want to make it clear that for me, the 80,000 is a starting line, not a finish line. And it was a fixed amount of money. The reason we did a fixed amount of money is because it was something that the voters could count on. We knew it was going to be this much. We were able to provide some compensation without truly getting into payroll and the uncertainty of payroll. That was a big concern that came forward. And for myself as well, we didn't know where we were going to be with the merger and what that cost would even remotely look like. But several thousand hours are committed each year to training, meetings, preparedness and maintenance, and 500 to 600 call responses. The firefighters who lead family dinners, children's sporting events, and get out of bed in the middle of the night deserve fair compensation. That is my comment on that in the general fund. I do have some comments on the brush truck. I don't know if you want to handle that during special articles.
I think when we go to special articles, but I do want to recognize and thank you and all of the firefighters throughout Weathersfield. When a year ago, the article went forward for the stipends, you know, fire departments across the region are losing volunteers, and the town, 72% of the town voted favorably for the stipends. And I think that when you consider from the time that it was determined that there would be a municipal fire department in the future to where you are now, I think it's a success story for the town. So
I think so too, and I think that no one wants their taxes to go up, and we definitely have a bias towards protecting the town. I think partially because we listen to towns around us, and I will tell you that there are towns that are struggling to get people to go to calls, and there are calls that are being either unanswered or neighboring departments are being called to answer those, delaying response times. That is not the goal for Weathersfield. That is not my goal as fire chief, and it's not a direction I want to go. So I thank you as well, and there are several of you that supported this a year ago, and I appreciate that, and I know I have several folks here that appreciate that and online as well. And then yeah, I'd be happy to mention some things about the brush truck when we get to that.
yep, that'll come back up. Any other comment from the committee? Okay, thank you.
Except
Thank you.
Do we have anybody? Have I missed anybody online, Ray? We're good online. Okay, good. And can somebody from online tell us if all of our audio is coming through okay? Just a thumbs up or?
It sounds really good tonight.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Okay, so let's take a look here on the general fund. Any other general fund topics? Yes. I think that's another Mr. Duff, right?
Steve Daffin.
Okay.
Comment on the $80,000 and my concern that some people want to cap it at that. And you know, what's gonna happen when if that is a cap, we get a certain amount of time into the year, call goes out. We don't have the stipend to send these people over. I think the number one priority has to be safety of the town.
Oh, so Scott,
Everything.
Mike out there.
You're gonna go to our bathroom?
Travis, can you mute your microphone?
So if I could ask you real quick, in the budget, what do we have for the firefighter stipends to the budget? And then do we have FICA and what are the other
It's not helping.
Alice Council, you're live.
Thank you. So I think this will help answer your question.
So this budget does have 80,000 plus a 3.5% COLA for the fire departments. It also does pay for FICA, workers' compensation, unemployment, and so.
If we have a large number of, God forbid, we have a large number of calls, is there a chance for that to increase if needed?
So the 80,000, so these are stipends. So what we do with this is we actually have an allocation formula. So what we do is we take, let's say there's 1,000 calls for a 6-month period. We look at the total responses per each of the firefighters, and then we divide that into the total number of cumulative calls, and that gives them their percentage of those responses. And then you take that percentage, you multiply it by the fixed amount of dollars that we've allocated towards that, and that gives them their stipend for that 6-month period. So we do it twice a year, and then also the fire chief, deputy fire chief, assistant fire chief, and our 4 captains all have fixed stipends for the year.
There just seemed to be some talk, and again, I'm trying to stay offline or whatever, but I don't think these guys are sitting here doing it to,
No, absolutely.
to get the benefits or whatever of it. And I know I'm a little biased here, but again, if a call goes out, I want these guys showing up, coming out of high water, so.
So to Stephen's point, if we have an extraordinary number of calls, or let's say it goes up to 700, are we still gonna just split the same 80, or would we consider?
I think.
Cause I agree with Stephen that we should have some other equation to say, okay, we're going to use the rainy day fund and put in an extra 10 so that people are getting, because it is not easy, I know. Firefighters and emergency personnel personally, and it can get pretty
I see
crazy.
personally where it's like, okay, we're all having a family gathering and half my family leaves because they gotta go put out a fire, so.
I think just to give like the general feedback, I know when we went through the first round of the budget cycle back in the fall, there was no concern. We felt that the fire department's increase was modest and there was no concern whatsoever over the stipend that had been decided upon in the last budget. I think he's addressed the concern about the traditional use of the FICA. I think we've read the article and the article reinforces the town manager statement and the fire chief statement. Mr. Campo.
Just on the stipend, so I really appreciate all the kind words. The stipends for the first 6 months of the year, if we take that 40,000, so 40,000 divided by 2, 20,000 for 6 months. There was just over 1,000 responses for the first 6 months, so just under $20 a call is what folks were getting. I didn't push for an increase beyond FICA or beyond COLA that was recommended by the town manager. I appreciate it backing. I think we need more data before we ask for anything different. I said 5 minutes ago there was a starting point for me, but I'm not comfortable coming to you, the taxpayers, or the select board without having some more data, having some time and say, okay, well, this worked for a year and then calls went up and now we're down to $14 a call. We need to do something different.
Yeah, and I think coming out of this meeting, which is going to be in a matter of weeks, this new vote, I think my suggestion to the town manager is let the budget cycle start over like more quickly. Don't wait till the fall. And I think that's a discussion as to how that's how where the town decides how is the money spent.
Absolutely, and I guess to just summarize, the point is I'm comfortable with this for like where we're at now. I'm very comfortable with it. I do appreciate your support.
Okay, Ms. Johnson.
Darlene Johnson. I think back when we had the discussion and we were talking about pay raises for the town. There are things in the budget that are way more than what our fire department is. And you said there was in the budget 3.5% over COLA. What if it was 6% over COLA? It's really pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
And if we're going to quibble about paying for our public safety or argue about it, then there's other things that need to be discussed in the budget.
Agreed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comment on this topic at hand? Yes. Yeah.
So, on a roughly $4 million budget, right? To highway general fund combined, right? You know, a lot of these reductions are nickel and diming, right? So we're looking at the fire department budget. You know, a $1,500 reduction in repairs. What I don't see is, I see approved budgets, but I don't see actual numbers for FY25 or 75. You know, here we are 3/4 way through FY26.
Yeah.
Are we overspending if we reduce repairs for fire apparatus by $1,500? Are we going to end up deficit spending to do the necessary repairs?
No, we have a reserve fund for that.
Can I interrupt for a second? Sorry. The reserve fund has an intended use that is not to cover the costs that should be included in the budget, though.
So we have a fire apparatus acquisition reserve fund, and we have a fire equipment reserve fund. But this repair line is contingent on replacing the brush vehicle next year. So if we do not replace that brush vehicle, we could see a higher amount of repairs on that vehicle next year. Actually, I know we will. So we'd have to use the rainy day fund.
Right. And we're talking about regular line items in a budget, not a rainy day. And we're not talking about equipment reserves. Right. So it's $1,500. It's a nominal amount. I don't know why the reduction here. It's in essence negligible to the total budget. So why not include the money so we have it in case we need it, as opposed to having to withdraw from reserve funds, which have an intended purpose.
Yeah, and the goal of this budget committee was to bring the budget down to 2.8%. And we get the tax need into the 5% range. I was able to get it down to 5.74%. But I cut a little bit out of every single budget in order to do that, rather than hit one budget really hard. We went through and made. Let me just start by saying this: the first budget that we put forward was the best budget in the best interest of the town. It got voted down. Budget committee asked for a 2.8% increase, and this is what we had to do in order to present something like that. We had to make reductions.
In the most general terms, let's face it, Vermont's having affordability challenges like everybody, and the town voted down a budget, and the nickel and dimes add up everywhere. So it's even though something may seem negligible here, you could say it's negligible there, and then your budget grows. And so at a time when people are having trouble affording to live, the general goal of budget work is to make things as affordable as possible and still provide the most essential services.
Sorry. If Brandon just said the budget that was presented initially was the best budget for the town. The budget advisory committee, in the name, is advisory only. The town select board could choose to put forth the same budget that was presented back in March, correct?
It could.
Because that, again, is the best budget for the needs of the town, as determined by those who work for the town.
Well, they can't put forward the same budget because it was voted down.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I heard you say that in the first budget committee meeting. I would like you to show me a statutory reference that they cannot do that. Because I believe that is factually incorrect.
That did that.
Yes, let me go ahead and I'll give you an example.
I don't want an example, I want the statutory reference that says you cannot put forth the same budget.
Okay, 17 BSA 2642. And there are,
42?
yeah, this was related to the capital plan discussion.
We're not talking about the capital plan, we're talking about the general fund and highway fund.
Well, articles which are voted down, they can't be reintroduced if they're unchanged. It was up the,
But what was
already-
the statutory reference again?
my understanding is 17 BSA 2642.
So I would request that the select board or the town manager run that by an attorney, because I don't believe that to be an accurate statement.
And I absolutely welcome that. And if I'm incorrect, then I would be incorrect. But I would also say the budget committee is an advisory committee. All it does is advise. The select board does the decision making. What the budget committee does is get feedback from the public, review it, come up with their recommendations. Brandon felt, the town manager felt, in his opinion, that this was the best budget. The public did not.
Well, so I just wanna point out to all of these points that for everyone to understand that as we are cutting a little bit here and a little bit there, it could end up hurting us in the future, and I've seen it before in other school budgets where all of a sudden all the roofs are leaking because every year, just to make sure the costs don't go up, maintenance is removed. So if we need to pay very close attention to what your best budget was, to what we're proposing now, and especially if the brush truck is not replaced, like we're talking about a contingency that isn't part of this equation, right?
Yeah.
So if it's not replaced, then
Well, we're gonna go over the brush truck when we get to the special articles. The question was addressed.
It was not a question, I just wanted to say that, you know, your point brought up is, that was the best budget that came up with that we thought and we brought to the select board. Select board put it out there, town people shot it down, okay. My belief is, and I don't know, I'm not a lawyer. My belief is if you have a significant change, you can reintroduce that. I thought all along, because there was a part 2 to that was put to the select board. Here's the best one, that's what we recommend. Here's a part 2, and what that did is that cut for the general plan budget. That cut the numbers down. Instead of a 20-year general budget plan, we were gonna go to a 10-year budget plan. We were also cutting the funds we were asking to put aside for that, which would still save us, you know, somewhere around $1 million over the period of time. It's everybody in town's worried about this thing, not the vote not going through. Oh my God, my taxes are going up. It's a pay now, pay later thing. If you want to cheat it, we can do it. And I got your point clearly, is we can cheat it. And when the fire department gets sick of pushing their trucks into the shop, because when they're done making a call, if they make them, or if they don't quit, because we're not getting paid really anyways, then we can pay to repair that thing and we're gonna be over budget. I'll just sit here and just so everybody knows, it doesn't really affect me. I'm moving, not because of the budget. No, I'm moving south. I'm old. So whether the taxes go up or down, it's not gonna really truly interfere with this. The best thing we could do is have a capital plan. Anyway, that's in my opinion, not speaking for the board, but just saying.
I'm with you.
And so just a reminder though, we are gonna be discussing special articles in a little bit here, and the fire department, I believe, has a special article. Carolyn Johnson.
I'll just reiterate. You have the budget that was supposed to be the best, and then you have this budget. There's still 1.5, where you can cut things in that budget that would appease people, and you can still pay for public service, our roads, things that we're going to complain about in 6 months because there's no budget. So you can still make cuts. And there are things, I mean, there are things that should be cut in that budget.
Just on point, I wanna agree with you 100%. There's always place to cut. What? When I was involved with the budget committee last year and going through even after the vote had gone down, is. I'm not saying this one should get more money for their pocket, I'm looking for the general well-being of the town. We've got highway trucks that shouldn't be. We're gonna lose out on equipment that is going out of warranty. This big equipment, when it goes out of warranty, the money is gonna be, we need some sort of you gotta save. You don't wait till your gas tank's on empty and pull into wherever's there. You're looking to get the cheapest gas.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There are things that should
Yeah.
not,
So I agree with you 100%.
and there are things that should be cut.
The other Johnson?
Yeah,
Sorry.
I think where we're at in the stand here is you might as well look at it as a scale. This is where we're at.
Yeah.
This is what we need to operate on. This is what taxpayers can afford, okay? So what you gotta do is you gotta say, okay, what can we do with what we've got, the budget, so get a budget so that people will vote on it, because we're also on a timeline here. I mean, you can't just keep pushing this out, our fiscal year's coming up. So if we gotta get it to where the people will vote on it and say, yes, we'll get it through, we'll vote on it. But at the same time, yes, it can have an effect also to your point, Sophia, is okay. It can affect the town, you're right. It can also affect the town if people, obviously they voted it down because they know what they can afford to pay. It can also affect the town if they can't afford to pay their taxes, and then we go to more delinquent taxes. We have really low delinquent tax rate now, thanks to Brandon, but we could get to, we could be back to a point where we got a lot of delinquent taxes, and we're counting on the money coming in to operate the town. And if the money isn't coming in, we put a budget out, we just say, we're gonna have this much money, but if they don't pay it, then what are you gonna do? You know, I think, so it can have an effect either way.
Think we should depend on delinquent taxes, I'm sorry.
Well, the delinquent taxes, do you want to comment to that?
So I mean,
What we're about, I mean,
I believe we're down to right around 15,000.
yeah.
The number that is put in the book at like in between tax payments where some people haven't made like their second quarterly tax payment. But I can get you on that. So what happens is if a taxpayer hasn't made their payment, we send them a notice. And we started this new system back in 2021, where we'll actually sit down with the taxpayer and go through their budget, go through their revenues, their expenses. And if somebody gets behind, I have the offer, I'm the tax collector for the town, and we'll make an agreement with them. And we can split it over 24 months. And that's how we got, I think back in 2020, when I started, we had almost 500,000 in delinquent taxes. Then we worked with the taxpayers and we made payment plans and we resolved those.
It's amazing.
Now,
Down 15,000.
roughly.
That's outstanding.
Yeah, that's what I said. I thought it was that spring, yeah.
Now, it's important to note as well that there are some taxpayers that can't meet the 24-month period.
Right.
And we exhaust all of our efforts through the delinquent tax policy, and then we have to hold the tax sale. And that's the case in every town. Tax sales happen. Sometimes we start with a list of 24 to 25 people. And when we issue our notice, it generally shrinks down to 6. Then we send a second notice, then it goes in the newspaper. We usually 1 to 3 per day.
I think Mr. Duffy has a question.
Just a statement. Obviously. You guys, budget committee, select board, go through this every single year. Us as residents don't like taxes going up, period. Just like when we go to the grocery store, we don't like to pay for the 10 items that cost $100 at the grocery store. But the issue is trying to either keep it level funded or not raise it more than 2 or 3%. We're just kicking the can down the road, right? In this town, has done that for years. Years.
Yeah.
We do not have a capital plan in place. We do not have a capital plan in place for our buildings. For the first time, if we didn't have ARPA money, that we allocated $800,000 to improvements in town, the town wouldn't have voted to take and do those improvements. But at the end of the day, the town is a business. It has to be run like a business. Unfortunately, us that live in town contribute to this business. And there's only so much that you can put into it to take and keep it going. But realistically, we do have to take and keep in mind of the capital plan that you guys, Brandon, proposed. I'm 100% for that. All right. 20 years ago, when we bought a fire truck, it was $240,000. And I'm just talking a fire truck, no different than a highway truck or a police cruiser. It always it's going up. For an engine now, you're pushing $800,000. So the more we can, I'd rather take and have the money in the bank, collect an interest, than borrow money and pay the bank the interest. And that really was the true definition of what you guys are trying to produce. Yes, we should have had that. It wouldn't be this discussion if we started that 20 years ago, because we would have already gained, we would have already saved how much money going into the highway, going into the police, going into fire, right? Unfortunately, the fire department budget, fire department itself is the most costly department when it comes to equipment. I can't do nothing about that. Chief can't do nothing about that. It's just what it is. But I do think that if we continue to try to level fund, if we continue to put rainy day fund to help offset the budget, as Brandon has pointed out over the last 5 years, the budget goes like this. And this year we're only going up a 1.5%. But then the next year, because we're trying to play catch up, we're going up 4.5%. I'm gonna have it stable, but still contribute money into on improving what we need to improve and maintain.
And John, just I was gonna say, and that's what I was, I'm hoping, ultimately, we are an advisory board. I'm hoping the select board will make the right decision, whatever that is. But they're gonna have three choices. They can go back to that first one, or they can go back to the second capital plan, which cut it down to a 10-year, lessen the money so that we could, borrow and have money coming in rather than spending all this money on interest over the years. So there is a chance to do it, but it's, when's a good time to save for this new thing? There's never a good time. If you don't save for it, that's why we're here tonight.
We're still in the general fund.
We're still in general fund, so one at a time. Okay.
So then kind of go back on that.
Yeah.
On your answer, we could make some really big cuts, right? We could take and cut out funds to buy fire trucks. We could cut out funds if Ray cut out half of his gravel fund. How would everybody be this summer, right? So the taxpayers have to realize that yes, we don't like to pay taxes, but we do have to put money into this.
We're gonna pay now and pay later.
Well, it's actually the tagline is pay now or pay more later.
A lot more. So I just wanted to give everyone a time check. We're about an hour into it. I think we still have several bits and pieces to get. One of the things that concerns me in the general fund, in the budget, is I was looking at growth, where growth occurred, and I do believe there are things we could do to reduce the budget in certain areas in order to increase the budget in other areas. For instance, a fire truck. Where could we pull money rather than a special article or a capital plan? Are there things we could do within our own budget to reduce costs? There have been a lot of payroll increases and benefits increases. And in one area, I was looking at the land use was an example. And I believe in FY22, it was 32,000 869, I believe.
What is that? What was
The land use budget.
Oh, land use.
So in FY 22, the actual, it was called actual is what it was in the book, 32,939 actually. And it went up to, I think it's went up to 150, and then you indicated that you want to pull off the assistant.
Yep.
Which drops into like 140 something. But my understanding is that land use produces like 1, 2, or 3 permits. They process 1, 2, or 3 permits a month. And I think at some point in the past, correct me if I'm wrong, it was contracted. You contracted out.
So we had a full-time land use administrator, back when. Right around the time that I came, there was a full-time land use administrator that had stepped down. They just started working at the district attorney's office in Alaska. So the select board at that time decreased the land use administrator budget down to part-time. And we tried to struggle through that for several years. There were several times where I was the land use administrator. There were some times where Jason Rasmussen across the street at regional planning would have to try to fill the gaps. Then we tried a shared services agreement with 3 towns, and we had 2 full-time land use administrators covering 3 towns in order to try to share the costs of a land use administrator. But ultimately, we all needed a full-time land use administrator. Things weren't getting done, permitting wasn't getting done timely. I actually would argue that it still isn't getting done timely, which is why we proposed the land use assistant.
Let's Tom answer them over to you.
There's the land use administrator is actively working on zoning violations. He staffs the planning commission and the ERP. And I'm not so sure about the 3 or permits per month. I'll try to get on that, but.
So
I do know the town has struggled to try to get by with a part-time land use administrator in the past. And what it does is it creates an increased workload on everybody else, and it ends up getting contracted or tries to get contracted to like regional planning, and they say that they only do it for a short amount of time. So we did try to go that direction. It didn't work.
okay, Robert Campbell.
So just for the record, Brandon, does the land use administrator do more than issue 1 to 2 to 3 permits a month?
Yes.
Great, like write the town plan, for example?
Yep.
Great, just wanted to make that point. And just 2 other points related to the general fund budget, and the highway, all the budgets, right? So every cut you're making or proposing is a cut to services being provided to the residents of Weathersfield. Every single cut you're making is a cut to services being provided. Directly or indirectly. Cutting staff benefits, for example, is a crazy suggestion because the staff are the town. They're the ones who are out there every single day, plowing the road, issuing permits, writing the town plans, staffing, the planning commission meetings at night, when everybody else is not working, largely. These are the people who are the town. So everything that the town can do to support the 14 full-time staff in town is money well spent.
Thank you for your comment. I saw another hand.
I just want to comment on land use. I don't know if you guys can advise further than that. I would say that land use fees should definitely change. They're not high enough. I believe it was, I don't know if it still is a highway access permit still $10?
$10.
So a highway access permit, for example, requires the zoning land use administrator to be involved. It requires someone from the highway department, or it would require Ray or somebody else to go out and verify. It also requires the lister to go out and issue a 911 number, if I'm correct, for $10. We are losing a lot of money there. That should be hundreds of dollars. Another quick example, I did a 2-lot subdivision last year. I believe it cost me $400. Just the amount of time that Ryan was down here for hearings, it doesn't even cover those hours, let alone the hours that we did an on-site visit and we did, he had to prepare all sorts of documents. I think these are places where the town could get some of its expense back, because they're not regular expenses, and if you're doing a project. It's part of the project, and there should be some costs incurred with that, so I don't know if it can go, if you can bring that to the planning or DRB or who that needs to go to, but that would be a recommendation.
Well, yeah, this is, we're just a budget advisory committee, but I did listen to the comment about, the high cost of the healthcare for one employee. And the increase, going steadily increasing, and I think we only were partnered with those 3 towns for like a very short period of time. I mean, how many months was it that we shared the costs?
It was, I believe it was a little over a year. I'll get back to you on the exact name.
So it's just something that I just look at it as one area where our costs have gone way up, to look at.
Well, I know in 2024 and 2025, where salaries for the town was blank on that, so maybe that was the years it was
We contracted it out.
contracted, that's what I was thinking when it was
Yeah, I
contracted.
think we got somebody on Zoom. Amy Beth May, please go ahead. I can't hear you, might have to unmute.
Sorry, I just typed it in the chat. If you read the town plan or the proposed town plan, we're going to expand by 227 houses by 2034. If we only have this land use administrator, is that going to be sufficient for the workload that one would anticipate if we are truly going to try and grow our community that much?
That's,
No, go ahead, Brian.
that's a huge part of it, Amy. I mean, that the town has to grow its grand list in order to keep up with inflation. And that's a huge chunk of the land use administrator's job. So if you decrease the land use administrator down to, let's say, part-time, for example, that office is gonna barely be able to function. It'll barely be able to get through processing and handling permitting and zoning violations, for example. So this office, and the reason, again, we were looking for a land use assistant is because the office is already overwhelmed.
So can I just make one more comment? So the land use plan that has just been revised and is gonna be discussed. We're very late on it anyway, right?
It is late, but it was done thoroughly.
Yeah, again, I think it's, I still need to review it in detail, but. That's one of the things this gentleman has been working on.
It is.
So let's do this. Any other general fund topics? I think we're ready to move on. Here's what we still got left on the agenda: highway fund, proposed special articles, and then the 27 proposed tax rate. I think the proposed tax rate will go rather quick. Special articles probably a little bit longer, but I think we need to dedicate ourselves to the highway fund right now. Did you want to brief that, or is Mr. Payton?
I'll go through it real quick. So when we originally proposed the highway fund, we proposed a 2.2% increase in the highway fund. However, there was a tax rate increase in the highway fund of 8.57%. And the reason for that is because we applied 102,000 in fund balance the prior year. And when you don't have 102,000 the next year, you have to fill that revenue gap with tax revenue. So in this year's budget, the select board decreased taxes in the highway fund in order to, with fund balance, so it's kind of like artificially lowering the tax rate. And then this year, again, we don't have that money in order to apply to highway fund. So with the goal of being around a 5% increase, we had to make further cuts to the highway budget in order to get that 8.57% increase down into the recommended 5% range. So this budget is now a 1.48% increase. So we've reduced it from a 2.2% increase to a 1.48% increase. When we went through the highway budget, the way we did this is we were able to apply an additional $5,000 in fund balance. We reduced supplies, parts, and fluids by $750. We reduced repairs non-vehicle by $2,500. Again, leaning on our reserve funds in the case we have. We exceed our budget for repairs. We reduced paving by $1,500, gravel by $1,500, chloride by $500, culverts by $2,500. And that's where that's what we're adding to. We reduced the budget by $9,250, and we applied $5,000 more in fund balance to get to a $14,250 increase in tax revenue.
I did, on the highway budget, I definitely wanna say, it does affect fire in a smaller way, but. We will feel deeper effects of this if fuel prices don't come down. So Ray and I talked after this failed, and can we come back for a higher budget? Because the fuel prices that we anticipated are much different than what we're gonna face. So the budget's $55,000 for fuel. That's a pretty big number, and if we multiply that by 1.5 and fuel was 4 and it's now 6, that's.
What was the highway, but the budget before was a 2.2% increase?
Yeah.
And where are you at right now?
1.4.
1.4? This was the draft. I think that's a valid point. And so for the committee, that's something we could advise and decide upon right now to make a new recommendation. What's the fuel budget rate?
From your
55,000, if I'm looking at it right.
Revised highway department budget, expenditures, where is it on here?
It's about 3/4 of the way down.
Okay, if I found it.
There's fuel and there's gasoline.
There's
fuel,
also
and diesel.
Oh, yep,
Diesel.
got it.
Diesel.
Okay, so, Ray, what are your thoughts on this? Knowing that it's probably gonna be a little while before fuel goes down. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, let me finish with him, okay, Rob, and then we'll come to you. So, I think our fuels with significantly higher. Was it usable these days?
Yeah, well, just fuel question for now.
Yeah.
We have a contract for fuel at this point. So we're locked in, I think it's $2.98. Thank God, Brandon did that last year.
Okay.
I was doing a daily pricing, which I was getting a better deal than the $2.98 a little bit sometimes. And I did push back on Brandon a little bit, so I could get a better deal if I just do the daily pricing. I'd be screwed right now if you hadn't done that. So, thank you.
So, yep, that's a congrats. How long is that lock in good for?
I think it's a 1-year contract.
And is it both diesel and gas?
Just diesel.
Diesel, okay.
And it's actually heating oil, started out as heating oil, and he added on diesel fuel to that. So, again, that's where we're at on diesel.
Thank you to both of you.
I cannot tell you that that's gonna happen again after next fiscal year, because I don't know when the contract ends, I think it's a fiscal year contract.
It's a 1-year contract.
1 year or 1 fiscal year?
One fiscal year.
And until June 30th it ends, and we're gonna get whatever price it's out.
Okay, so-
we're not gonna get this.
June 30th of next year.
Thank you.
Yeah.
June 30th next year. So it sounds like we're okay with diesel for this fiscal year. Now, for the gasoline though, real quick while you're up there, it's at 5,500. Do you feel that needs to be revised based on where we're at right now, and it's gonna take a little while?
My hope is that the pickup replacement goes through, and that's the only thing that takes gas, that and our chainsaws. So that should significantly go lower once we don't have a gas pickup that I'm driving around and be a diesel.
Okay,
So it'll increase the diesel a little bit, but diesel is way more fuel economy wise.
are you or the town manager recommending a change to 5,500 to cover increased fuel costs for the gasoline?
No.
Okay, Mr. LaPlante and then Mr. Johnson.
Couple things, right, I mean. Salt and the gravel, salt prices are gonna go up, I know that for a fact. You cut the salt price, you cut the salt and you cut the gravel, these are probably gonna go up. So we're gonna end up paying it anyway for it's not born. We'll reduce. You're gonna use, can't predict what winter's gonna be, I know that. Then, done. So, I mean, like, we're shooting ourselves in the foot with those items. But is there any reason we don't get the gravel, if the most fit? Cost more money and it's not as good a quality, you know? Yeah, but to save money, I mean, it costs more money. Oh, I know, it costs more money, but you have to, man, it's like $133 an hour for a truck. All right, that's a good question.
So I wanna, thank you, I wanna get,
We do our own trucking, we don't hire somebody, well, I know how, we don't pay $135 an hour for truck. You don't, what's your truck cost per hour, you're paying with it. It's in the budget already, it's not an added expense, you're gonna be paying for it, but it sits there if it drives. So you're paying somebody by the hour, 40 hours a week to be there. No, I'm not saying to have somebody haul it. I'm saying, well, we can't forget it. It doesn't cost any more, the front's there, you're paying. Yeah, it's just mileage of the job.
so to his question though, just, thank you, sir. His question on the salt and gravel, do you feel that that's adequate or inadequate?
Inadequate.
Okay, what's your recommendation?
My previous budget, was. Okay. We'll get into it.
I wanna just note though, that we did not recommend reductions to the highway budget.
You rejected, it was required to go 2.8 townwide. My budget affects the townwide budget, so I have to lower mine as well. It's all a team here. So it's not one side taking all the hit and the other side not being a part of it.
Well, the 2.8 recommendation was only for the general fund.
That's my budget figure. Just so you know, I 100% agree with a 2.8% COLA when it comes to setting the budget for employees. 100%. When you're making a budget for a highway department, you do not use the standard to set a budget for a household. There's an MCI standard, which is the municipal cost index, which is for highway departments and municipalities to buy the goods that we buy: salt, gravel, oil, pavement. All that stuff is in that municipal cost index. This year, the municipal cost index is between 3.5% and 5%. So coming in at 2.2%, because I know things are tight, I'm trying to help everybody, is a cut from last year by 0.6%. The thing that's tricky here, and Brandon touched on it, is yes, it's a tax deed of 8%, 8 point whatever percent more in taxes. I'm only asking for 2.2% more in funding. The reason it costs more is because people are so worried about taxes that they took the fund balance, 100,000, and threw it into the budget and falsely lowered the taxes for 1 year. It'd be like you giving me $500 towards my mortgage this month, and then next month wondering why I didn't pay my full mortgage, but I don't have that $500 anymore. It didn't lower my payment. I'm not increasing my budget. I'm still at the same mortgage, but the $500 is gone. So that's what happened last year in the budget. That happens a lot. I keep advising against it. I'm trying to lean this off of it. Brandon agrees. I would rather take that $100,000, put it in my equipment fund, and buy something, and not borrow money or have to go through any of the hassle with that. That money would have been better spent doing that than to lower the taxes by, 2.5% for 1 year.
Well, I think there's two different conversations. I think.
But this one be perfectly clear. I'm not asking for 8% more in my budget.
Understood.
I'm asking for 2%.
Understood. So speaking to the salt and the gravel though, that was the comment made by Mr. LaPlante. You're at 43,000 for salt and 75,000 for gravel.
Correct. Salt is hard to come by. The prices are going up. But if there's no supply, I'm not buying it. I can't buy it. So I gotta use more sand. I gotta reduce the salt use on the tire roads and use sand instead, or salt sand mixture. That's what I did this year. I don't know if people noticed it or not, but there's a lot of paved roads that I've been salting that were not salted this year.
So why don't we do this? I'm gonna make a quick motion. I'm gonna move that we recommend the select board. I apologize. I'll stop with my motion because you still needed to chat.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I was really good with it. It was at 2.2% or something. And I just want to say that the highway budget only failed by 6 votes. So it's like, I think what scared a lot of people, the capital funds, I'm all for capital funds myself, but I think it was presented, it was too quick. A lot of people didn't understand. I said this before, I've talked about capital funds. I've worked with them my whole life. I think a lot of people were lumping that capital fund in with the highway fund and saying, this is all part of that. They want brand new trucks and it's like, and it only failed by 6 votes. personally, I think without the capital funds, the highway budget would probably pass. But
You're probably right, and we didn't, as a budget committee, we were good with the 2.2. We
Yeah.
didn't make any recommended change. The only thing we recommended was to drive the general fund
yes,
to no more than 2.8 to try to drive the price down. But I think the motion I'd like to recommend, and I'll discuss it, is my motion would be that the select board review the salt and gravel purchase amounts and revise them based on the anticipated requirement.
I'll
Is there a
second
second? We have a second discussion. Ray, you can go first.
So we made cuts to other areas that I'm more concerned with. And it's repairs and supplies. We did cut that by a little bit. I'm already over budget this year. On this year's repairs and supplies. I just got another bill, Brandon, today for $2,200 for that T12 that broke down most of the winter.
Yeah.
So that just came in. So that's gonna be added to the deficit we already have in repairs and supplies this year.
Well, there's an easier way to do this. I'd like to hear from Mr. Broken Campbell first.
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
But again, just to, like, the original budget that Ray presented at town meeting is the budget that we should go back to. That's the budget that is needed for the highway department to operate for fiscal year 27. The use of reserve funds, cutting money from repairs, given the age of the trucks and the lack of currently a lack of a capital plan or equipment funding, is only going to increase, with each passing month and year. So this budget, as presented here, is cutting your nose to spite your face, right? Like it's spend now or spend later, right? So, right, like we're bringing a point that we've been using surplus money to buy down the tax rate for years, and what we're seeing now is the outcome of buying down the tax rate because it's artificially low. We have to pay for these services. Period.
Right, so not only that, what Ray just explained is he's over budget on repairs because he's got trucks that are at the end of their life, so have we increased the repair? Item? No, so we should definitely not be reducing that at all.
The question I have is in the Article 6 that was voted on, it was 1,085,062, and where are we at right now, Brandon, in the proposed?
$1,070,812.
Can you read that one more time, please?
$1,070,812 to 14,000.
So 14,000.
Now, 5,000 of that was use of more fund balance to create a larger gap next year.
Alright, if we continue to use reserve funds and shortchange the budget, and costs continue to increase, such as repairs, where does that put ourselves? We can't deficit spend when we don't have money to spend. That's the reserve funds. So if we're using the reserve funds to backfill the budget and costs continue to be what they are, the town's gonna have to, take out a short-term loan and pay interest on that to cover operating expenses? That's like ridiculous fiscal plan for a town.
I think.
I'm looking at Brandon. I'm not.
100%.
And full disclosure, we have 2 town managers this year, so.
My job has nothing to do with my concern about the town of Weathersfield.
But I would say you have a very wise point. I think that the use of reserve funds is delicate. I think that was a good point well taken. Ray, you had your question.
Comment, I just wanted to clarify, it's not using the reserve, it's using the fund balance.
Right.
So in the highway budget, we're very weather dependent, so salt, sand, whatever, I will have that in a certain budget level to pay for the year, like this year. Last year I spent $38,000 on material for mud, the year before it's $27,000 for mud, this year I'm way down. The roads so far are better than they were. So what happens is you create a fund balance. If your weather's bad, you get your overtime,
not as high, you don't need as many tires or cutting edges or chains, it's all connected. With that fund balance, I try at the end of the year to buy the next year's supplies at the lower rate. I'll build a salt shed, I'll build a diesel tank, I'll buy all my chains, I'll buy all my tires and have them a year ahead of time. This year I can't do that. We overspent the reserve, or not the reserve, I'm sorry, overspent the line item for repairs. And I'm starting to try to figure out where to save money elsewhere to use that money. I had like 5,000 left in overtime, or salt, and some money left over in overtime. Hopefully when the storms come, it's all math.
We'll do those projections right around this time, so that we land at zero right now.
My fear is we're not covering our expenses to save the day to day. We're putting another 50 grand out of fund balance this year's budget. So next year, right out of the gate, opening day of budget season, I have a 1.5% increase in my budget tax need. And I didn't increase a dime. I didn't go up a penny. And I'm automatically gonna have to come up with 50 grand more. Whenever you look at your budget, that's the thing to key in on, is use of fund balance. That money in any of these budgets means next year, to keep the same amount of money, you're gonna have tax dollars to make up that money again.
So here's a question for you and Brandon, if I may. Your budget was a 2.2% increase. Additional article. The budget committee had no concern with it. We felt it was modest and we had no concern. We did not vote either way on any advice to change that. We did vote in the last meeting to reduce the general fund. The general fund budget has increased in the last 6 years. Do you know off the top of your head? It's been a fairly large increase.
I don't know.
It's been a fairly large increase. I don't quote me, but I think it was something like 600,000 in a 5-year period. And so, just my general thought is, if there are reductions that could be made in the general fund, I don't think any of us wanted to see your budget decreased.
I do have one more thing I'd like to say. It's listening before. I think something we need to keep in mind is perhaps not this year, but perhaps coming, we're gonna need a new salt shed. Because as you said, the salt shed's too small and it's been repaired. And if you can pre-buy more salt and whatever, the pre-buy, a lot of us pre-buy our wood pellets for the year. We know that we can get it cheaper when you buy it. So you're gonna need an all salt shed. I also heard you say that the well is still polluted and you're washing your trucks basically with salt water. I mean, at some point, we're probably gonna need a new well too. So, I mean, is that all gonna be hitting us another year?
Yes. No, we can get a filter for salt. We can, there's things you can do for that. But, it's a good point about the salt shed. Every choice that I recommend or try to make in the highway department is for the best bang for the buck on everything. So if I pay 1.5 times for a grader blade, more than what I was paying, but it's lasting me 2 times more than that, that's a good deal. There's times where instead of buying brand new tires, I buy retreads because they only last a year anyway, because the tire chains kill them. So there's ways I can pay more money for a hardened chain. A hardened chain, I'm going through 2 sets a year instead of 4. It costs more for a hardened chain, but it way outweighs. So those are the choices I make on a daily basis in my budget.
Now, you talked about gravel, hauling gravel now. I guess the biggest fault we lost is we lost our pit. I mean,
we don't have a gravel pit.
I know, we didn't get the permit, yeah.
We don't have a gravel pit at all.
So I guess you're hauling probably from the closest you can for the cost.
I find, so it's the closest you can, the cheapest you can is not the best again.
Yeah.
So I can go closer and I can pay more per ton and save on the fuel, but the material is to hold up as good.
Gotcha.
If I'm grading a road and I'm putting on material and that material falls apart on a hill, I don't have the chloride, whatever happens, you get the water bars, nobody's happy, I gotta grade again and again. So instead of grading it twice a year, I'm grading it 4 or 5 times a year. So where are you saving money by not taking that dump truck and going to St. Pierre or Cold River or wherever I go? I did a test the first year I was here. I got 4 different samples of material, put them on the same exact hill, but different locations. And this is material that held up the best for the buck, bang for the buck.
Mr. Trust,
thank you.
Why can't we just put his budget back up?
Well, we never changed it. I think our feedback was to work towards reduction in the general fund.
Right, but I wouldn't change it. I put the same budget right back on there. It failed by 6 and it, like I said, I think everything got lumped into it. And he took the brunt of it. Right here, according to the town budget, reconsideration, Vermont law. You can put the same exact budget that you had before if it wasn't, as long as it's warned properly, you can put the same exact budget up again. For somebody. I don't know why we just don't, he was at 2.2, that's outstanding.
Yeah, my only issue was with the capital plans warning, but in terms of the budget, I mean, we could easily move that we recommend to the select board that they our advice would be to accept his 2.2% budget.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would someone like to make that motion? I can word it if you'd like.
Oh,
I just wanna ask one follow-up question to
Yes.
that point. Ray, is 2.2 enough now that we've discussed everything and you?
I'm not, I don't want to feel like a slap in the face to people that voted no. They spoke, they voted no, I lost by 16 votes. 16, there were 16 votes was the total, so, and it doesn't matter. It's 16 or 6.
yeah.
I just in good faith. I appreciate it, I'm worried.
You also have the totality of over 20 articles. So let's do this. I'm gonna do a motion. If someone chooses to second it, and then we can open a discussion and move forward. But I'm gonna move that we recommend to the select board to reintroduce his 2.2% budget, his budget at the 2.2% level.
I second that.
Okay, now we're gonna go into discussion. So yeah.
No,
Can
I have nothing to say.
I just comment direct. Right, the thing is, I understand what you're saying, so I don't wanna slap these 16 people or whatever, or whoever voted against it. But, what I expect you to do is do what's best for the town, because, and the best thing, in my opinion, for the town is just what, I just made a motion, is that we reintroduce this, because it's gonna save us if it goes through. They might vote it down again. That's everybody's prerogative, they can check off whatever they want to check off. But this little bit of time we spent looking at your budget, it's gonna cost the town a lot more money if we don't get this little bit and, and go back to the original. The original isn't perfect, you kept it extremely low, 2.2. How many road agents kept it at 2.2 this year? I mean, I believe our governor got 5.9% increase, so lead by example. But at 2.2 is, you've got nothing to be ashamed or feel bad about, right? You've done a tremendous job. And that's why.
Okay, let's, we've got a couple of people online. Who's first? Do I see a hand up?
I don't have any hands up on my screen.
Any comments?
We've got some hands over here.
Oh, we have hands. I apologize. Who was first, Darlene or? Okay. Mrs. Johnson. Then Mr. LaPlante. Thank you.
Okay. Where were all the people that voted the budget then? And I guess my point is, if you present something like, oh, the budget's gonna go up, people are gonna panic. And after they open that tax bill, it goes away. It goes away, believe me. You know what, we're retired and we're not wealthy people. But we also join boards, we sit through meetings, and we understand that sometimes, if you just give up just a little bit extra. I know we can't give it up, the grocery stores are a disaster, but there are things people can do. And if the budget goes up how many thousand it went up, I really don't know the figure. It's like, if you sat down and figured it out, it's really not that much more a month. Then, that's just my opinion. But the main one is, where are all the people that voted it down? Because Zoom and this room is not covering it.
I think there's some consensus on the highway budget, but Mr. LaPlante, you had your hand up.
Okay, the highway budget, yes.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, we just be shooting ourselves in the foot, because we don't know what next winter's gonna bring, what the overtime's gonna be, what the snowplow's gonna be, what the salt. We got lucky this year in March. No snow, and mud season seems to be pretty good, so we don't know how much gravel we're gonna use next year, so we're gonna just be spending next year.
So,
And we're gonna be over budget anyway, so.
are you done, sir?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. LaPlante. Sophia, you're next.
I just have one question, and this is completely out in left field. But, your hours for the week and how your guys work, do they work 10-hour days or 8-hour days?
They work 10-hour days.
At, summer and winter?
Yep.
And so what happens if we have a snowstorm on a Friday, or do you kind of
So
move it?
I had that question as well. We used to just do it in the summer, and in the wintertime, we went to the 5-day weeks. We tracked in-house, they tracked what hours, let's say you're gonna work from 7 to 3:30, Monday through Friday, or you're gonna work from 6 to 4, Monday through Thursday. We tracked it, and it comes either a little few more hours or a few less hours. It's so close, it's not even a difference.
Okay.
We work 40 hours. I could take a whole week and paint 40 hours out of that. At any time that it storms or a tree falls down or anything happens out of that 40 hours, it's time and a half. It's overtime. Automatic. So it doesn't matter what 40 hours I'm picked. I could do Sunday through Thursday and have 6 hours a day. You're still gonna have overtime because I can't tell the storms to get here on work hours. It doesn't work. I'm not being sarcastic, but that's the reality.
So I want to do a quick time check. We're
Okay,
about 8:15. I'd like to restate my motion and take a vote. Okay, and what I'm doing is I'm adding,
Wait,
oh, we have a
you
question.
missed one question.
Mr. Dolphin?
Well, speaking to Ray's point, everything did get voted down. And there's no guarantees that anything's gonna pass. Even if with a reduced budget. That number may be reduced, it still may not be passed. There's a large contingent, well, maybe not there's large, but there's contingent of residents. They're not here, they're online, that feel like the town's being run by rich landowners now. I don't know who the hell in this room fits that description. And those people probably aren't here, but they have a vote. So my concern is if we do send the same levels to the select board and they vote on it, is it gonna be voted down and are we gonna be here again? I don't know what the magic number is to get all these people's concerns tamped down and for them to vote yes, but there is a large number of people that just basically don't trust anything coming out of anywhere.
Well, let's do one at a time. Mr. Dolphin was first, and then we'll go, and then we have an online question coming up from Bob.
I do agree with Ray, and the trend for the town has been what he saves, plug it into the budget for next year.
Yeah.
So me personally, I would prefer the $44,058 be plugged back into this budget on top of that. So whatever next year comes, that if there is funds that he didn't use, that he can do what he does on trying to bulk buy and save instead of trying to have to come up for the next year on top of that. That's it.
Okay, I think Ms. Henderson, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay. So I think to the question of how is this going to pass the second time around, I think that responsibility falls to those of us who understand why this makes sense. And we need to, we need to sell this to the town. And whether that's letters to the editor, whether it's social media, whether that's putting a sign in your yard, whatever it is, it's like, come on. this is our responsibility. If we think this should, should fly, then let's, make it clear.
I think, thank you very much. Mr. Stapleton, you had.
I was raising my hand because she.
Oh, because okay. I thought you wanted to talk.
To Rika's point, you guys, when did you guys first meet on your budget?
I think it was November.
November. How many people participated?
There were 5 assigned for participating. We couldn't get people to come to meetings.
What happens at town meeting?
Nobody.
What happens to your guys' budget, to your guys' meetings, same to the select board? There was the last select board meeting when it was stated that the town didn't do a good job on pushing this out here, putting it out for the budget and or capital. No, the town did what the town was supposed to do. Brandon did what he was supposed to do. It's up to the taxpayers to take and be more involved and not just vote everything down when it comes time on March 4th. I do believe that you and you guys in the select board did your job on putting the budget together, putting that information out there for people to take and do their homework, be engaged, but they're not. Until budget got voted down, and how many people are going to select board meetings? How many people are coming to these meetings?
They have to buy a popcorn machine now in the budget. There's so many. So I think I'd like to go forward with the motion. I want to restate it though. And before I restate it, I just want in the discussion, you were at a 2.2% increase. Some of the conditions have changed. Some of the conditions recently road salt, fuel. I want to give it by the select board that we support that budget amount. But at the same token, I think the highway department needs some flexibility to look within their individual line items and make adjustments as needed. So what I'd like to essentially recommend is that that our committee recommends to select board that the highway department budget proceed at the what was it, 2.21? 2.22? 2.22 level. And I do also want to clarify, my understanding is municipal articles have to be presented, have to be reintroduced. Special articles or capital plans are different than municipal articles. This budget has to go forward. We eventually have to pass the budget. And I believe that we're going to get into special articles here shortly. But for the committee, I'll restate the motion, and then we'll take our vote. I move to recommend to the select board that the highway department budget be set at a 2.22% increase.
Second that.
Let's go ahead and take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
And Michael Crichton, you're on.
Aye.
He's not okay. The motion carries. So we're going to recommend the select board that they restore that budget at a 2.22%. And then they'll have a comment on Monday as well. The select board is the decision-making body. They can assess. The things that are changing here too is there's not going to be 22 articles on this ballot. There's going to be a couple special ones. Yeah. Okay, Sophia.
I just want to go back to the emergency services budget. And in terms of the fuel and the propane, is that also because we went and talked about the diesel, are your fuel costs okay, or do you need to
Well,
be?
you're in the general fund, right?
Right, we have right now 10,000,
We're okay with the general fund that is presented.
okay, I just wanted to make sure because the fuel costs have gone up so much.
So here, we went a little long, but there were many good comments, and I think it was important to hear from everybody and not hinder that. We have to move to the special articles, and so I'd ask the town manager, let's just let him brief these without interruption for time's sake.
Okay. So I did present a revised capital plan for the budget committee and for the select board. We reduced it from a 20-year plan down to a 10-year plan. And we reduced the cost substantially. However, at the last budget committee meeting, the budget committee did vote not to send the capital plan back to back on the ballot at town meeting. So what I've done here is I've created 2 special articles to borrow funds and to use our reserve funds in order to replace the equipment that is in our capital plan to be replaced next year. Both the 3 pieces of equipment is in dire need of replacement. So the first, the select board did not take a vote at the last select board meeting on whether they would bring the capital plan forward or not, but it did appear that 3 members wanted to do it, 2 members did not want to do it at the time. But there were no motions. So I've created 2 versions of what we're calling Article 3. The first version is, shall the voters of the town of Weathersfield authorize the select board to borrow a sum not to exceed $65,000 for a term not to exceed 5 years for the purpose of purchasing a replacement truck for the fire department's 2006 Ford F-350 brush vehicle. The total cost of the truck shall not exceed $135,000, with the remaining balance to be funded from the town's fire apparatus acquisition reserve fund. The second version is if we did the capital plan. And that version reads as follows. Shall the voters of the town of Weathersfield raise and appropriate the sum of $75,000 to fund the fire apparatus acquisition reserve fund for the purpose of replacing fire apparatus as outlined in the fire apparatus capital plan. The purpose of this capital plan is to reduce long-term costs to taxpayers by avoiding interest associated with borrowing and by generating interest earnings within the reserve fund. The total estimated savings is $374,118. Article 4.
Can we stop on the first one just a second?
Yeah.
Go through it all.
So the first one is strictly the so it's basically fire department.
Yeah.
And then the second one is highway department. Okay, real quick, though, because we want to be able to get him through.
It's just purchasing. So what would be, if he was purchasing, what is the interest rate on it? Is that using the Vermont municipal purchase up to $150,000, I believe, or is that?
So we use, I'm not sure which program you're talking about.
Yeah, I think it's well, has to be a certain age of replacement too, I believe, but it's 2.9, but I believe it's 2.99% right now on a Vermont municipal purchase for highway trucks, fire trucks.
Are you aware of that, John? Okay, because I'm not aware of it either.
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I don't have any of the details.
I had it all written down, but I don't believe I've got it with me.
So the way I've done this, Wayne, is I looked back at 20 years of interest date.
Yeah.
And I took the average interest rate from that.
Yeah.
And then I did economic research based on various different economists and projected out 10 years for interest rates. So we used a 5.25% interest rate. And actually economists are saying 5.5%. So our
But if you could do
average interest rate over the
but
next
if you could
years,
borrow from the Vermont municipal, it
then
would probably be
it
cheaper.
would drop 2%.
Yeah, 2%. Yeah, 2%.
So you'd still pay 3%.
Yeah, you still pay 3, which is agreed.
The idea is if you borrow money, even if it's 1%, even if it's a 0.5%, it's more
Exactly.
in any case. If it's 0.01%.
Well, let's do the next article. Let's try to stick with the plan. Okay, we'll do the next article, then we'll do discussion. Okay.
All right, Article 4. Shall the voters of the town of Weathersfield authorize the select board to borrow a sum not to exceed $220,000 for a term not to exceed 5 years for the purpose of purchasing motorized highway equipment, including a 10-wheel dump truck to replace the highway department's 2012 Freightliner and a medium-duty plow truck to replace the highway department's 2016 Ford pickup. The total cost of this equipment shall not exceed $340,000, with the remaining balance to be funded from the highway motorized equipment reserve fund. That's version 1. Version 2 would be the capital plan. shall the voters of the town of Weathersfield raise and appropriate the sum of $150,000 to fund the motorized highway equipment reserve fund for the purpose of replacing motorized highway equipment as outlined in the motorized highway equipment capital plan. The purpose of this capital plan is to reduce long-term costs to taxpayers by avoiding interest associated with borrowing and by generating interest earnings within the reserve fund. The total estimated savings is $379,008.
Okay, so basically, the town manager wants to put forth, two special articles. One for fire, one for highway. In one version, it's more of a traditional special article. In the second version, it references a capital plan. And so I mentioned this a little bit earlier, and I'll just revisit it briefly. When I was researching capital plans, I had concerns about what the public is being noticed on and voting on when they're doing capital plan articles. And in researching, I used the reference earlier, 17 VSA 2242, and essentially it says these articles incorporate capital plans. They have to be disclosed in a warning on the scope, the cost, and the duration is really what you want to provide the voters, so they know, hey, these are long-term commitments. And my other understanding is that in our articles, like special articles, capital plan articles, we can't bind future appropriations. And so I think that with the capital plan articles, do the voters know that this is a 5 or 10 or 15-year obligation? It's clearly defined and noticed so that they know that they're not just voting for a small piece of money.
Yes, it was. We held public hearings, we held many select board meetings and budget committee meetings. Actually, going back to when you and August were on the budget committee last year. The town attorney wrote the prior articles for the ballot and approved them from a legal perspective. So the articles that we put forward were approved by the town attorney and didn't meet. According to our town attorney, I mean, who I believe has been very good to the town over the years.
So the voters voted no to all but Article 13, which was the culvert article passed, right? The $10,000 to Bowen Hill. But they voted no to the other 3 capital plan articles, and we voted at the last budget committee meeting not to go forward with capital plan articles. And so it's open for discussion or questions. I guess questions is the first place.
I make just a couple more comments. We need to replace this equipment. We can't, although I know and Ray knows and probably most of the people in this room know that doing the capital plan is in the best interest of the town and it's going to save the town money long term. There's not a question in my mind that it's not going to save the town. Through sheer purchasing power, interest, and interest earnings alone, the town will save money on this. However, like Dr. Murray was saying, the vote did go down. So we can do one of two things. We can send back a 10-year plan, which is a risk, and it can get voted down due to lack of awareness, or we could do it the way the town has always done it and gain more money and interest.
So here's what I'd like to do. I have a procedural question and I'm going to hand it to the town manager, and I'd like you to run that by the town council, because that's my procedural concern with the capital plans and statutes. If he reviews it and determines that it's permissible, then I will have no objection and no issues, no concerns. Okay.
Okay.
So my and I'm going to recognize everyone on the committee and anyone from the audience that wishes to speak. But my
I'm sorry. Can we talk about what you just handed Brandon? And
yes, you come on up and have a
read
question.
aloud?
Yep. Yeah, I'll read that aloud. I read this is the whole statement. The capital plan articles were improperly warned and out of order. The voters rejected them. the budget committee voted to recommend that they not be reintroduced, even with altered amounts, as doing so would constitute substantially the same question. These articles incorporate capital plans not discussed in the warning, preventing voters from understanding the full cost, scope, and duration of the proposed expenditures as required in 17 VSA 2642. By implying ongoing funding tied to those plans, they also run contrary to 24 VSA 2664 and 2786, as one town meeting cannot bind future appropriations and capital plans are advisory only. As presented, they do not meet Vermont's statutory standard for clear and lawful voter authorization. So that's my intention, and I'm providing it to the town manager.
Thank you.
Are you providing that as the budget committee or as a resident of the town? Because the way you just presented that was both disingenuous because you handed Brandon a note without reading it, and you're presenting it as the chair of the budget committee.
Actually, your point is well taken, sir. Yes, could you hand that back to me, please? No, procedurally, your point's well taken. So here's what I'd like to ask. So I would like to move to submit this statement to the town manager. And I would ask for a second.
I second it.
Okay, discussion. And we've got Michael Crichton online. The motion is to present this statement to the town
I'm
manager.
good with that, but I would, yes, I did.
Yes, I'll provide a copy. Any other discussion? Yes, sir.
Well, I mean, I think that we've already talked about this. I think the statutory references that you make are incorrect and it should be run by the attorney. But are we talking about, is the discussion right now on what you just read? Or
this is a motion.
The article that
this is a motion for the budget committee to allow me to present this to the town manager for the attorney's review. Okay, any other discussion? Yes.
I think. As far as budget committee, I think that should be reviewed before we vote on it. I'm looking at something from the Vermont law that says a special article can be brought back. That's under 17 VSA 2664, and it says can it be brought back after it fails. Yes, legally, a failed special article can be rewarned and voted on again. There is no Vermont statute that prevents an article from being reconsidered at a future meeting.
And I understand that.
I mean, it's that's I say it's.
And I have a couple of concerns that I've put into this.
I mean, I understand both ends of that, but
yes,
it's like
Mr. Dolphin.
that's kind of loaded with. Hold on.
Let him go first, and then we'll
The letter that you just read. To me, the way that is that Brandon didn't do his job on March 4th on presenting the articles correctly. I'm assuming, as town manager, that the articles that are prepared go through town attorney and through VLCT. Is that correct, Brandon?
It is correct.
So to now still come forward with this meeting, I would thought after March 4th, as a resident, you would have brought those concerns up to him prior to now on what you guys are gonna vote on, with still no clear answer if the town attorney's even correct. I'm just really confused, and it does seem like we are slapping our town manager in the face because he didn't do his job properly in the first one.
I'll respond and I'll give the others discussion. Thank you for the point. The last meeting, we voted not to resubmit the capital plans, and questions were raised. Whether that that logic was correct, whether they were referencing the statutes correct. So I took the time, I jotted this down. The point was well taken. We're at a budget committee meeting. We absolutely should. The budget committee should vote on submitting a question. It is a question. It's not a personal attack.
No.
It doesn't diminish the issues whatsoever. But but I do also believe that it's okay to raise concerns, and I think it's healthy to do so. And the reason I'm doing this is the capital plan is a very long-term commitment of funds, and the concern is that are the voters fully aware of what the town is obligated? And so I think that's, my belief is that this question's a fair question to raise. So others? Who was first? I think somebody was first.
So, number one, I'd like to add at least, the 17 VSA 2664 for the attorney to verify.
Can you state that real quick?
Did I bet, read it
Yes.
correctly? 17
2664.
17 VSA 2664
Okay,
to the items that are pending, and to see if there are any other statutes that should be checked at this point, since we're here at this date, and your point is well taken. The other thing is that I just wanna voice a concern that you stated in our last meeting that, we cannot reintroduce the same, article. I'd like an answer on that. It's true, not true, and which statute is that? If we can do that.
yeah.
I mean, again, while we're consulting with the attorney, I'd like to know that
And that's,
answer.
okay,
Which if again, I think that's where we're at now between these VSAs is the way that August is reading, I understand, it's like, no, you cannot. And then this 664 that I brought up, it says, yes, you can. So I think there's the question, you want an answer for it, gotta get the answer from, the town attorney and say.
okay, I'm
either
writing,
we are or not.
I'm writing this down, so just give me,
Right.
hold on one second. I'm writing down the statement you made. Okay, and then Mr. Broker Campbell, I think you're next.
So just to clarify, the articles that went to town meeting were already reviewed by the town attorney, correct?
Yes.
So we are asking we're nickel and diming the budget, $50 from the library, we're saving postage, we're doing this, right? We're cutting we're talking about cutting land use, assistance and postage and office supplies. But we're gonna repay to have something done by the same attorney who already did it the first time. Right?
Yeah, around 275 an hour.
Come on.
Let's be clear. So we're gonna spend money to do something that's already been done, but we're proposing to cut the office supplies budget to save $50. The order of operations here seems really incorrect and like we're spinning our wheels and wasting money.
Well, I thank you for your comments, sir. Yes, Dalton?
The statement of how it was presented to the voters on March 4th, it was done incorrectly, correct?
I could read it a final time before we take the vote.
Please.
Yeah. Is there any other discussion before we move to a vote? Yes.
I did not on that, but back on what Brandon was saying when he started to read this off. The point being is, no, there was no motion made by the select board to say, go back to capital plan. Brandon asked the select board, what do you want? And they had a discussion, no motion, and they voted as just in discussion. It's like the recommendation came back to Brandon to represent this as a capital plan. That was from the select board. Documentaries. What's going, what's going? It's going. It doesn't, it comes down to, I thought we were gonna come back and do plan B of the capital plan, which was cut from 20 to 10, cut some funding down to lessen the pain on the taxpayers, but still protect the town as a whole. So we can move forward and buy equipment, not have $50 from the library.
Sorry, I think if you'll allow me, I think I can summarize where this can go. The select board meets, when do they meet next?
They meet
It was
Wednesday.
Wednesday. I believe I have a valid question. I'd like to take a vote to be able to submit it. The select board has two options that you've provided. And I think that we allow the select board to make that decision. And I think I don't think we necessarily, I think if we have our questions resolved, the public will be there. Perfect. We'll be there and we can discuss it with the select board.
I have a concern. If the budget committee is or is not in support of the capital plan, is important for the public process and voting. So if we go to town meeting and the select board says, yes, we voted to do a capital plan, but the budget committee's recommendation is no, that puts the taxpayers in an uncomfortable position.
I see your point. I think we had a question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That paper that you slipped to him, was that coming from the budget committee or from you as a resident?
It will come from the budget committee.
They all signed it and
just-
already read it
Well,
before you flipped it over?
We're gonna read it. We just read it. We took a vote,
But you slipped it to Brandon without all of them signing it and or reading it
an
first.
objection was made and a point was well taken. And then I read it aloud, so it would be on behalf of the budget committee. So we're in discussion. Brandon's made the point, at the last meeting, we recommended not to move forward with capital plan reintroduction. The select board did the discussion. I was there. They did not take a vote, which was accurate. Three of them were in favor of capital plans, two were not. The town manager in his prep packet for this meeting, I believe he said he was withdrawing his intent to submit capital plans.
Right.
But he's given us two options for the special article. One is to do a special article without a capital plan, and one is to do one with the capital plan. I just don't feel comfortable with the concerns I have statutorily in voting for a capital plan. I think I would feel different if I knew that those concerns were, if they weren't, valid concerns, if it was not an issue. And I think that this vote can wait till the select board. Mr. Broker Campbell.
I just want to be clear, are you making the statement that the attorney who reviewed the articles for town meeting was incorrect in their review of the articles? Because that's what it sounds like you're saying. That you don't trust that the attorney who.
That's not what I said.
But that you're implying, maybe it's not what you said, but you are implying that the articles that went before town meeting were improperly warned. Even though they were reviewed by the attorney who does municipal work in the state of Vermont.
I have a concern, and anybody can raise a concern or voice an objection.
You're correct, but you came prepared with a written statement and slipped it across the table to Brandon, and now you're walking it back and trying to get the budget committee to vote on it. But it feels real disingenuous that you came prepared for this and then threw it out in a public meeting after it was called out that you slipped a note to Brandon without reading it. And you're making the budget committee take a vote on it without having had time or the thought to process it, as opposed to they've had the past 10 minutes to consider what you proposed. I would argue that this is entirely inappropriate. You, as a citizen, can provide that note to Brandon or to the budget committee for future consideration.
So here's what I'd like to do. You've raised some concerns, Mr. Dobbin, you're your hand up too, and I don't. Did you want to speak, sir?
When I came up here the last time, I was trying to get clarification of what Mr. John Brock Campbell had stated, was there was concerns of how the article was written and how the information on the article was not done to the correct standards of notifying everybody. That article would have been pages long. That was already would incorporate the months and months prior of all the meetings, of the discussions, of the warning meetings. So that's the part I'm kind of confused on. On the capital plan for the fire department, as we just discussed, highway got shot down. Everything got shot down because they just looked at one thing and citizens didn't educate themselves. Less than 19 votes for the reserve for the fire department capital plan. 361 to 342. Very, very close on that capital plan. That failed. Yep, 19 people disagreed, but the majority were in favor for this capital. Not so much for Ray, sorry. But for this capital plan, it was very close. So I personally would hate to see it not go back out there, where hopefully the people that have concerns have been watching for the last month on educating themselves more.
I think that's a really valid concern. So here's what I'd like to do. Here's where we're at. We've got 5 board members here. We've had healthy discussions, getting late. Any other discussion from the committee? Um, I would like to raise the question, if this, and I think the town council would be the person to check with, if we are following Vermont statute with submitting a capital plan.
I really don't mind posing the question with the town attorney. I'd rather resolve any questions about the capital plan before the town. If the town decides, if the select board decides to put it back on the ballot. Because if there are unresolved legal questions. Part of the tax base may say no. And the goal is, we know it's in the best interest of the town.
Well, there's another option too.
The other question I had is, do we even need to make a motion to do that, or is that something that you can just check and?
So here's what I'd like to do. And we, in the essence of time, I withdraw my motion and ask, would you be willing to withdraw your second?
Yes.
Okay,
I'll keep you second.
the motion's withdrawn, the motion's killed. So this brings us back to,
Can I ask
yes.
just one question? Going forward, if you have such a thing, can we get it ahead of the meeting?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's very hard for me. I agree with what the gentleman said. I'm really bad at names, so I apologize. But it is easier for me to absorb and then think about, especially something that complex. So
Yeah, that's
if we can do that.
Point well taken.
I would like to say that, yes, I would like Brandon to, run it by before it goes before the select board, make sure there is clarity and it's.
Well, we've withdrawn the motion, so that's gonna be his determination alone.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, it is his determination if he
I'm
wants.
determined to please collect the letter.
Yes, you may, unless, is there unanimous consent? Okay. All right, so here's where we're at. We have two special articles town managers presented. One is for a special article, the second is a version of the special article tailored to a capital plan. One is for the fire department, one is for the highway department. I believe we owe a recommendation. I believe we get some, well, we have an open discussion yet. Let me try to get the committee to make a decision. Would someone from the committee like to move to adopt version 1? We have to wait till we do discussion. I'll go ahead and make the motion. I recommend we provide version 1 as the recommendation to the select board. Do I have a second?
Listen, you said the cost was, we have discussion yet, but the interest.
And I will say this too, is if the committee doesn't want to make a recommendation, that's your choice. But they are seeking some direction from us.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, Mr. Creighton has seconded the motion. Now discussion. Motion is to recommend version 1. Yes, so be it.
Well, I disagree because I think it's gonna cost us so much more. Than doing version 2. So it seems. It seems not in all of our best interests and our interest as taxpayers to pay more. Over the cost of it than less. If that makes sense.
Okay. Committee members first, and then we'll go to the public. Anything from committee members, discussion? Okay.
I'm still reading, I think, trying to get it throughout.
I can come back to you. We have a question. And it's been one online.
I just want to say neither of these options is great. the second option for this reduced capital plan. Although I applaud the town manager's efforts to do something that might appeal to voters. It does push out a truck to 31 years of age. Is anybody in the room driving a truck that's 31 years old on a regular basis? I didn't think so. So that's a concern for me. I do want to go on record, the truck that we're trying to replace, for anyone that doesn't know, is a 2006 that has compression issues and doesn't always like to start. We recently had to push it into the fire station after a call. And a few months ago, we had to leave it on the side of the road at a call until it cooled down and things contracted enough where it would then start. So how long before it just doesn't start at all? I don't know. I do have a price to replace the engine with a remanufactured engine, $16,000 to $17,000. I don't think that there's any fiscal responsibility in spending that amount of money on a 20-year-old truck. So the will of the voters will be done, but we need the truck. It's not just about getting shiny things. And there is a piece of reuse in this truck. The proposal would be to buy a cabin chassis and upfit most of the external equipment on our existing truck to the new truck. And that should be noted. If we were looking to just get brand new shiny everything, we would be well north of 200,000. So there are efforts to reduce cost and be fiscally responsible, and to Ray's point, best bang for the buck. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this? I think Ray popped his hand up and then Wayne, we'll go Wayne, Ray, and Mr. Broker Counter. Okay.
Ray.
I have a question to the board. You said that there was an issue with the possible legalities of it, and that's all you had for an issue. So, is there a third option? This just came to me during this meeting. Is there a third option of going to the town and asking for $150,000 this year to go into the capital reserve and not even mention a capital plan? And then have a whole year to talk about a capital plan and do that next year? Is that just ludicrous thinking, Brandon?
So Ray, that's exactly how this is written.
Right.
Well, so. And well, not this one that they're currently.
You're not voting on a 10-year plan, I'm voting on 1 year right now.
They have a motion and a second to borrow money right now.
Okay.
So let's wait and see if there's. It goes.
Yeah, the motion is to recommend version 1. We have another hand, yep.
Hold on, Wade was gonna go.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, the motion to borrow the money, is that? I mean, it's not set in stone. We could still be looking in at the municipal borrowing for that. Because that's, if you're gonna borrow, it's still saving 2% interest, so you're at 370, yeah, no.
So you're still gonna spend 300 million.
Well, just remember, we're advisory only. We're gonna get feedback from the public, discuss it, present it to the select board will make the decision. And so I think there's time to comment with them again next week. And learn more, and if we learn about this municipal borrowing loan program, we could share that.
So I have an exact figure. If we did the 2.9% interest. And we decided to borrow money. Excuse me, if we did the 2.9% interest. And we funded the capital plan, we would save 204,000.
How much?
204,000
It's safe.
in savings with that. Now, if we borrow the money, we're gonna spend 204,000 more.
Okay, I think you're next.
So on Article 1, or version 1 of Article 3, which is I think what we're discussing right now. The difference is $70,000 or so that we would be borrowing from the town fire apparatus acquisition reserve fund, correct? The difference between 135 and 65, 662.50.
Correct.
Right. What is the balance of the reserve fund right now?
Josh, do you
Yeah,
have
let me
there?
find that page.
Yes.
$117,818 and a few pennies.
So we're gonna borrow $70,000 and leave us with $55,000 roughly. Of which we are not putting, we are not putting more money into that fund annually.
That's correct. And when we did this capital plan study, John, we presented a plan that was in the best interest of the town.
Correct.
Now we pick up, hold it down, and now we're looking at borrowing money, and it's not. So the greatest position to be in.
Right, the point I'm trying to make is that we're borrowing money from a reserve fund that we are not funding. So this digs the hole deeper that we're gonna have to at some point climb out of. Because we're gonna need, I think somebody mentioned that, you know, a new fire truck might be $800,000 in a couple of years. Right, not might be. Not might be.
It is now.
It is, so a new fire truck now is $800,000. We will need a new fire truck in the coming years, and if we are not funding the reserve fund and we continue to take money out of it. How are we going to pay for that truck when we need to purchase it?
And next year, if we borrow, we're gonna have payments next year as well.
Which will be in the general fund budget.
28 budget. That's why when we presented this plan, that's why when we were tasked with this plan. We spent over almost 2 years on this plan.
Let's to summarize, I'm strongly opposed to this version of Article 3.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Doug.
I'm strongly against version 1, of borrowing money. And the issue is, over the last 20 years. It was different when the trucks cost $150,000. In the last, did you pull up reserve or what were made on fire trucks at all?
Yes, I did.
How many times did the town put special articles on to put reserve money in to this account?
Hardly
any.
any.
And when they did, it was 1 penny. And at that time, it was $31,000 is what they put into this reserve account. In 5 years, 7 years, $125,000 to go toward a $500,000 truck. No, it's not a lot. So we always had to borrow money. Back to, I would prefer you do version 2. And it doesn't even have to be a capital plan, just a special article. Because for the last 15 years, I've been stating, Ray Pryor as chief, we need to put not 30,000 into the reserve account, but we need to put 75,000, 100,000 into the reserve account. So we have that money to purchase the equipment we needed.
Okay, he's recommending that they put 75,000 to match. Did I understand that you're recommending the amount be 75,000, not 65,662?
So to borrow.
Let me just ask Mr. Duffman that. What? I might have misunderstood a little bit.
Version 2, if you're gonna go any direction, it would be version 2. But I know the cloud that's hanging over as far as the capital funding word.
Yes.
And if that's the issue, then just put it as a special article to put into the reserve account. Because guess what? We're gonna be right back here next year, going through the same thing of how much money we're gonna put in this account, how much money we're gonna put in this account.
Well, with the extra caveat of, why is the general fund costing us more?
Well, let's thank you. Here's what I'd like to do. It's time to do a vote. The town manager has asked us to get feedback to the select board on version 1 and version 2. And just a reminder, they will have a special meeting,
Wednesday of next week.
Wednesday night, the select board will deliberate this. It's been motioned and seconded to recommend version 1 to the select board. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
We have 2 ayes. Okay, all those opposed, I'm sorry.
Aye.
So we have 3 ayes. All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
We have 2 nays. The motion carries 3-2. Our recommendation is version 1. This brings us to Article 4.
No, it's not.
Hold on.
I just have a comment.
Well, this motion's over. There is comment at the end though. We'll have time after this next agenda item. Article 4. Does everyone have a copy of this handy? We have 2 options there. Town managers reviewed them. He's seeking the same thing. He's seeking a recommendation from us to provide the select board. Version 1 is borrow a sum of not to exceed 220,000. And version 2 is capital plan related. Does anyone on the committee wish to make a motion to accept version 1 or version 2?
I'll make the motion to accept version 1.
Okay, is there a second? Okay,
I'll
I'll
second.
second. Did you beat me to it? That was Michael. Michael, can you confirm if you seconded?
Second.
Okay, now we'll enter discussion. You made the motion, you can go first, Wayne.
Yeah, I just think if the interest rate's low enough, we get the 2.99%, particularly on that, I think it's probably the better way to go right now. We presented the capital plans, and I think the highway budget would have passed. The town people looked at that and look at the capital plan. They look at that, oh, they're buying a new truck, they look at this, and it's just, they know right here, this is what they're getting.
But so,
Right.
Okay, and Sophie's next.
so. If we go with the 2.99%, Brandon, can you tell me how much more we're paying for for version 1 versus version 2?
Yeah, 1 second.
Okay, well, he's researching that. Do you have any other questions?
No, that's fine.
Okay, Chris, or let's see if Chris or Mike wants to go first, and then we'll come back from
Already,
Okay, Michael, any questions?
185,000.
So this estimate, so I just want to also restate, so the total estimated savings is actually that version 1 costs us $185,000 more than version 2, correct?
Yes.
I'm just making sure that we all understand. So in this first one, rather than the savings, that means version 1 that we're recommending is costing X number. Can you give me that number? Because I didn't write it down.
On the first one,
Not the first one, this Article 4 first one. Version 1.
$204,064.
Okay, so we're paying $204,000 more for version 1 than version 2. I just want everybody to understand that.
I just like to say that on capital plans too, I've worked with them my whole life. The way people see this, I think when you see a capital plan, you see this truck, oh, we're gonna buy the truck, okay? When we did capital plans when we put a brand new turbo generator in. The capital plan went there, we got brand new equipment, we're gonna put a capital plan 10 years down to the road that we gotta rip this out and replace it, send it out for service. You don't put a capital plan in when we're gonna buy a new truck. We know the truck's failed. You put a capital plan in when we've got nice equipment down the road, we gotta replace it. It's sort of like buying a warranty on your house or a warranty on your car. You buy that brand new extended warranty the day you buy your truck, not after.
Okay, Mr. Broker Campbell, sorry, Chris, why don't you go first, and then we'll do the public.
No, I was just gonna say, but that being said is, if you have a broken truck today. And the rest of the stuff is breaking down because it's getting worn out. Let's put a tourniquet on this thing. We're bleeding out. Let's wrestle with what we've got and make it work. Because if you order this truck today, you're not gonna see it for 2 years. By that time, you've got 2 more trucks that are down. You have to, that's why they call it a capital plan. You have to plan for tomorrow. We made it to today. Let's try to figure out how to get through tomorrow. That's, I can't wrap my head around spending hundreds of thousands more so that I can save $300 or $400 on my taxes. A community comes together and you all put together to grow as a community. And you folks, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, and I'll tell you why. The day is coming and you're gonna pay this thing here. You can pass your budget, borrow a little bit of money, say we all won. 3 years from now, you've got a catastrophe in front of you. I mean, a catastrophe. You're gonna be sitting here saying, where are we gonna get these $9 million? I mean, it's bad. I don't think anybody understands. I don't think you understand how bad this is.
I understand.
The bottom line is, here's the good news. No matter what this budget committee approves, disapproves, whatever, it goes in front of the select board. They've actually got 3 versions. Because they've got this new, they got the first one, which is the best one, and then they got the revised, should we cut the numbers down to a 10-year? So they got 3 versions. They're gonna make the decision. the people that need to get there need to tell them, this is what we want. Like, August said, we can only give them, this is what we got.
So here's
I wouldn't want to be them either, but I mean, still, it's like, I always prepare for tomorrow. I made it to today. You know, now what happens tomorrow?
Thank you, Chris.
That's what, thank you.
Thank you. I think you're next, and I think we have the Zoom.
Yeah.
Crowd. So, Mr. Broker Campbell.
Well, so you're plus on it. We can never have a shiny new thing because we're not paying for it. We're only borrowing it. So we're continuing to pay more because we don't want to be fiscally smart and plan for tomorrow. We're only looking at the problem today, right? To your point that you made, when you were capital planning, once you had the shiny thing, you were doing the capital plan. We can't get the shiny thing without paying an extra $240,000 for it. So we would rather spend $250,000 in interest to buy the thing that we could actually just fiscally plan for long term. Same questions to the first article though. The balance for the new trucks coming from the Highway Motorized Equipment Reserve Fund. Do we contribute annually to that reserve fund?
No.
Great. So we're going to continue to, I'm going to make the same point, to withdraw from a fund that we are not adding to annually. And so what's the long-term plan then? So first question, second statement. It was disheartening during the discussion on the first article to hear every single person in the audience stand up and speak against version 1. Every single person who spoke against Article 1, and yet the budget committee voted for it. I understand that is your right and your purview. However, no person stood up and said, I support this. Every single person in the room who spoke was against version 1.
Well, thank you, sir. And we did discuss capital plan last meeting, and we also had a town vote in which the town voted down the capital plan.
I would have participated in the last meeting or read the minutes, but they were not available. So I'm coming to this meeting fresh.
Well, thank you, sir. And I think we addressed that earlier too. I'm sorry, you're next.
Mike Spalding, just kind of what John said. So you have said multiple times that you're an advisory board. Everyone here stood up and told you what they wanted. You didn't go with that. And nobody else online or anything else said against that. So you still went with the personal agenda is how it looks. So the advisory was here and told you what they wanted. And the vote a month ago was about a month ago, not today. So if they were still concerned, they'd be here today. So it seems like a personal agenda by the ones who are just voting.
Thank you, sir. And I would say let's all refrain from personal attacks. In terms of personal agendas, concerns were raised about the wording of the capital plan and the noticing of the capital plan. And those concerns have been discussed, and I think they'll be discussed again at the select board meeting. Ray, you have your hand up? And then I have to get to Zoom too, because I think there's.
I don't know there's anybody on Zoom, not me.
Oh. Can you raise your right hand if it's you and your left hand if it's Zoom?
So, let's say your recommendation goes to the board passes it, the town votes for it in support of it. What happens in 2 years when the grader's replaced and 3 years when the 2016 truck is replaced? Where's that money come from?
So here's, and I don't want to speak for the board, so I'll let everyone in the committee have a chance to speak. I personally, as a member, believe in capital planning. Absolutely, without a doubt. I think many of the arguments that Mr. Brooker Campbell has made and our town manager's made and Mr. Trust has made and others, I agree very much with capital planning. My concerns are procedural and the way it's been presented to the voters and the way it was noticed. And so here's where I'm going with this. I've also suggested that this budget committee get that right back to work though, and give this capital plan more time, more attention, and more public involvement, so that it's well known to everybody how much will be allocated each of the whatever years, 10 years. What will be the investment over those 10 years? What will the taxpayers expect to see their tax rate increase be as a result of a long-term capital plan commitment? And then have the articles noticed properly.
So in response to that. Josh, I think mentioned it too. There is an option to vote just to put money in reserve this year and not vote for a 10-year capital plan, correct? Would that solve the problem?
Here's where I wanna go through the rest of
Go through the rest.
we're giving two choices here. I think we owe a recommendation of one of the choices. But I would say the select board, they're the decision-making body, and I think you can present that as, you know, I think the town manager heard that comment from many in the room that they'd like to see an option 3.
But to be clear, Brad, you said this was presented as a 1-year. Pay 150, provide 150 for the 1 year, not a 10-year, every year 150 is automatically gonna go in there, is that correct?
Correct.
So that resolves the problem with the whole. Thing being capital plan.
This is a 1-year vote.
Yeah.
This isn't a vote.
So there's no procedural issue that we're not voting to spend money for the next 10 years, we're spending it 1 year.
But that would be voting on it every single year.
Thank you. So the procedural thing's gone up. Right?
I would disagree. I think that question still exists. But however, I think, Chris, did you have your hand up? Pretty good. I'm sorry, good. No, I'm so okay. Mr. Broker Campbell, welcome back.
Sorry, I hope you all had leave before you came. We're also working on an assumption in these discussions, both with the first article and this article, with this 3%, loan rate that may or may not exist. If we're borrowing from a private lender, it will be more than that. So at best, we're going to spend an extra $240,000 in interest payments by borrowing short term, as opposed to capital, as opposed to planning for the future. At best, it's an extra $240,000. If we cannot find your research there to get 2.9%, it's
It's 379.
It's 379, right? So we're talking. I just wanted to point out that we're choosing to spend an extra $250,000, $250,000, but we're gonna cut the postage from the library for $50, right? There's no sense in what this is in this discussion.
It's actually not $250,000, John. It's nearly 800,000.
Ms. Johnson.
I'm sorry. It's $800,000, but we're gonna cut $50 from the library budget.
Thank you.
I'm not as well versed as Bess. Shall the voters of the town of Weathersfield raise and appropriate the sum of $150,000 for the reserve fund for the purpose, blah, 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 capital plan? You need a truck tomorrow. Where's the money for the truck coming from tomorrow?
It's not right now.
It's what?
We don't have any money right now. That's why we're asking you to borrow.
Okay, so if you chose the capital plan, you still wouldn't have the money because that is to go toward the capital plan.
Then you take.
What's the criteria?
So you take the capital plan, the money would go into a
The money goes into a reserve fund.
Yes.
And
And
then
we keep spending reserve funds.
That's what it's all for.
when was the last withdrawal from the reserve fund?
So, I don't know.
Can you,
So what-
Brandon, can you try and restate what it
Yeah,
is?
and one at a time so the folks listening can hear
So
you.
what happens if we have a vote to put $150,000 in the reserve fund?
Okay,
So July, if this passes and says yes, July 1st, $150,000 we raise by taxes and go into the reserve fund. Then we go to the select board and say we want to take money out of that reserve fund with the money we already have in there plus the 150, there'll be enough to pay cash for the 2 pieces of equipment. We go to the select board and say, can we make a withdrawal to pay for this and this? Brandon does. And the select board votes, and they'll say, the majority will say, yes, you can, or no, you can't. If they say no, we don't buy the truck. If they say yes, then we take the reserve money and buy the truck.
so if they say no and you don't buy the truck,
Then we just,
you're pushing it into the garage like the fire apparatus, am I right?
there's no.
That-
Well, no,
I am
it's a valid point.
well versed.
It's a valid point, yeah.
So I can't predict what's gonna happen to the vehicle, but
Right,
yes, you're,
Same thing could happen with a loan.
okay. And the option is 220,000
uh,
to borrow. Um,
And then say
not the
more,
same thing, kinda.
no, you borrow 220,000, then you pay 3% more back to the bank on top of that.
Okay,
So if I want $150,000 to go into the reserve, 150 is less than 220.
yeah,
220 plus 3% is way more than 150.
okay,
That's the math.
thank you.
So we have a motion, we've been doing discussion, it's been motioned and seconded to recommend version 1 to the select board. I'm gonna go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And Michael, are you online?
Aye.
Okay, those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Okay, the vote is 3-2, the vote carries. I hope that's helpful.
Proposed tax rate.
Proposed tax rate, and this is our last item, and then there is other business if there's any final comments.
All right, so. The proposed tax rate for next year,
Is that located on the first page?
yeah, it's on the first page.
Okay, so it's on the first page of that tax packet.
So the tax rate in FY 26 is 0.7788. The tax rate in FY 27 is proposed at 0.8235. This would increase per $100,000 of property value by $45 annually. For the average property value of $213,000, the average annual tax implication would be $95.47 per year, or $7.96.
And that's the, what's that average property? That's 213,577.
And that's on our grand list. I want to be very specific that this is not the appraised value of your house for sale. This is the town's appraised value of your property. Not the insurance value.
Your tax bill.
Correct. So, and those are 2008 values. So we are going through a reappraisal. So the average property value is going to increase.
Just a question for the folks who are listening, and here. If we approve, hypothetically, version 1, or if the select board approves version 2, have you calculated an estimate of how that impacts the tax rate?
Yes.
Okay.
So if the select board approves the fire department capital plan.
Do you need a minute? Because we could,
No, I have it up right here. Okay. So if the select board in the town approves the highway capital plan.
This is the revised capital. plan.
Yes, I'm gonna start with the fire apparatus.
Okay.
So if the select board in the town votes to approve the fire apparatus capital plan. It would increase the average property value by $3.97 per month. If
Per month.
Okay. Or I think it would be annual cost. The annual cost would be $47.63 per year.
Okay.
On the average property value.
On average, okay, that's great. Okay.
And then on the highway department capital plan. It would increase by $7.96 per month. Or $95.47 per year.
Okay. On the average property value.
On the average property value.
Okay, so that's really good to know for everybody. I hope that's helpful. Okay, any questions on the presentation?
So can I ask, so that's how much that increases by, if we go with version 1s, how does that impact our property tax?
That's kind of the problem. You're not gonna see it this year.
I know, but next year, but how much does it?
Budget, so everything's gonna look good in this budget.
I know, but how much, when does it hit us and how's it gonna look? Can you tell us that?
Numbers off the top of my head, but.
Can you get that calculation for us? I mean, not today, but
maybe
If we can get it by
Thursday.
next Wednesday,
Wednesday.
Increase what we're trying to come to you for budget increase.
Right.
Okay. Mr. LaPlante, you got your hand up?
This one, so. In the first meeting, I talked about communication, and is there any way we can get something out to the voters? Explaining what we talked about, the capital plan and how it works, and how much the tax rate's gonna go up. Because there's only like 20 of us on around here, but there's 600 other voters.
If I may, I believe it was a little over 700 that found their way to the yes, no vote.
Right,
But then we had all the heroes come about in town, and here we are. Everybody, I think everybody, including you, have reached out. It's like, hey, let's get involved here. I'm against this or I'm for it. And everybody sitting at this table, we don't care whether you're against it or for it. We've got our personal opinions. We're all residents, and you got yours. Let's get the best thing for the town. Use the people vote thing, and that's
Why
what
we
we're
need
supposed to
to
do.
get communication out.
It's out there. 700 and some odd people made it to say yes, no.
No,
Well,
it's
I-
hard on.
Well, so I can't send a card out unless there's support from the budget committee and select board.
Well, let's do this real quick, because I'm gonna speak to that, but so.
No,
you
Marty,
guys-
it's-
No, I don't have a question. I don't have a question. I have a comment to Mr. LaPlante's thought.
Yeah.
I actually think that we need to get not a card sent out, but let's get like a summary thing. This is how much this is how much it was gonna be. Again, not buried somewhere. I'm glad to assist, and my husband is Mr. Marketing. He can also help.
What am I marketing when the vote was no by the budget committee?
Let me reel this in real quick here, because I'm listening carefully to everyone. Here's where we're at right now. We're providing some recommendations to the select board. I heard an option 3, which sounds like something the select board might consider next Wednesday? Special meeting next Wednesday. And so the select board's gonna make a choice. Probably at this meeting next Wednesday or the following Monday.
I would ask them to make a decision by the following Monday.
Okay.
Now, I don't think,
And well, here's where I'm going with this. They'll make their decision between next Wednesday and next Monday. They're gonna have to notice the election with their decision. We've given them some feedback, we've raised some concerns, and the public's made a lot of feedback, some new feedback this meeting from the last meeting. So I'd encourage you to attend the select board meetings. And then when they send their notice out, I think Brandon told me that they're gonna mail it townwide. Yes, it goes townwide. Everyone will get the notice.
it'll go in the newspaper.
It sounds like you're gonna have 2 municipal articles.
Yeah.
And 2 other articles. And there'll be no write-ins. It'll be a pretty straightforward election. And then the election dates have been posted too. So that's this process. However, whether the capital plan is reintroduced as a long-term plan, I think there's tremendous opportunity with a lot more town interest going forward that wasn't existing this last cycle. I think I saw a hand up. Was that Michael? That is someone had their hand. Oh, okay.
Your question to the town manager was on, he just read you what the difference was gonna be on the capital plans. $12 a month. Then your question was, if we went the borrowing route, what the employment was gonna be. He's right, we can't really give you that because we don't know what the interest rate is. But I can give you an example that we borrowed on the fire department budget, we borrowed. Chief, what was it, $2,000, like two, on the new truck, we just borrowed 200, over 200,000, so it's pretty close to what the version 1 is of Article 4
And where is that?
on the fire department budget. All the way down to the bottom, principal interest. It's gonna be the fourth and fifth line up.
Interest 6171.
Yeah, so you literally pay $9,257 more per year to borrow.
Wait, hold on, I'm trying to find where.
There's one piece with those.
So, debt services interest,
Oh, I see. it.
fiscal 25 was 9,957, 7714 for 1661. So that's. We can't cut that out. So when you borrow the money for 5 years, this is an example of a 7-year loan. And this is only showing 3 years on this budget here.
So we have a debt service principal of 38,570 and then interest of 9.
Correct.
And the
Uh,
capital plan was trying to eliminate that interest.
That
on
interest.
Yes, exactly. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Donovan. So. Any other questions on the tax rate presentation? Anybody from Zoom that I missed? I think we're good. Okay, any other business, any other comments, any other concerns, any other questions? I'll go to the committee first. We went 3 hours, but I think it was important to listen to everybody. And from the public, any final matters, Mr. Horton?
I wish Mr. Campbell stuck around, but as I pointed out once before, when the select board made decisions on the lawyer's recommendations, he has been wrong in the past. That's why I agree with Mr. earlier about double checking the lawyer's opinion, because he don't do that, he makes mistakes, and we don't need to get that bound up with them again.
Well, thank you, sir. Any other comments? We are all residents, I think that's it for comments. Oh, Mr. Doppler, you're going up to the podium? I didn't see your hand.
No, I'm sorry. I think everyone's doing their best in good faith here. There's a lot of big questions being asked here. And the select board, the next meeting is gonna be interesting, to say the least, but I think whatever mailer or whatever they're gonna put out to the citizens, it really needs to say, and I know you can't predict the interest rate, but just put that number out there that this is what this is, and that's what it is. Most people, we try to be physically responsible with our own budgets, and if you have the numbers staring you in the face, maybe it'll change some minds, as opposed to, just trying to visualize it or whatever. What do they say, sunlight's the best remedy on things, so just try to get the board to be as clear as possible with the choices in it around it.
And Ms. Johnson?
This committee is advisory. And the select board needs to remember that. And when they make a decision, it's easy to say, the budget committee recommended this. And no matter what we all said or anything, so the select board needs to step up and give their recommendations to.
Thank you. So I'd like to thank everyone for attending. There are many dates posted on the town's website and the school's website for upcoming meetings and events. Thank you all for dialing in. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Welcome.
Thank you. A second? All in favor? Aye. You're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
What do I do? Don't touch anything.
Repeat.